I call this meeting to order of the Common Council of the Town of Payson, June 24th, 2026. It is 4 p.m. and Councilman Ferris is going to do the invocation. Please rise.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to meet as a council. And Lord, we just ask that your spirit be with us in our heart and all our contemplations, what we say, and may we and all that we say and what we do will bring glory to your name. We pray for rain for our country, our rim country here. And we ask for your protection over the first responders and just protection over our community as a whole. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Megan, I'm supposed to ask you for the roll call.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
Thank you. That's different than last time. Before we proceed, I'd like to announce that we'll be taking D1, legislative update by Tom Dorn, and item G1, the PSPRS refinancing presentations out of order this evening. Several of the presenters are not town employees and have scheduling commitments. In the interest of respecting their time and ensuring their participation, we will hear those items now, then return to the agenda, beginning with call to the public. So we're going to D, the ceremonials, and we're going to G. Sheila, would you introduce them, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. At a previous meeting, you had presentations, several previous meetings, on the public safety personnel retirement system and some financing options. And so we have two companies here that I think have been before you before with some information to share. We've asked them to give a recap of the financing that they could provide to the town of Payson for refinancing our public safety debt. First with us is Lance Holman of Holman Capital, and he's going to give you a short presentation. Keep in mind that after the presenters are done later on tonight's agenda, you do have a discussion item for council discussion and consideration. If you'd like to provide staff direction on choosing one option or another option. But if you have questions for the presenter, they're certainly here to answer questions about their proposal for you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, Sheila, do you have the date that Mr. Holman was here previously? I just want to look up the presentation specifically.
It was in April. I know it was an April meeting.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Waiting on the screen to display. We don't have a signal yet. Oh, here we go. First, again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to come back and address the council. It's a privilege. And I just wanted to speak a few minutes to recap the opportunity that we would like to present to the council regarding your public safety retirement pension system. You can proceed to the next slide. So I can't use my arrow. All right. What I've done is do a side-by-side comparison between bond financing and direct lending. And on the left in blue, you can see that bonds have a slightly lower rate
but that is not the complete picture. Many times in bond financing, you have most of the principal paid in the later years and very little principal paid in the earlier years. And therefore, your interest rate is multiplied times the higher principal balance. On the right side, you have direct lending, and you have a higher interest rate, but it's very similar to the mortgage on your home or your car loans, where you typically have level principal and interest payments with each payment, and you have a declining principal balance. So as your interest rate is multiplied each year times the outstanding principal balance, that outstanding principal balance is declining towards zero at the end of the financing. On the left side, you have that bonds have a no-call provision. So if you're going to finance a bond for 30 years, typically in years 1 through 10, you are not allowed to pay off the bonds early. That means if interest rates go down in years 1 through 10, you're not able to refinance it. On the right, you have the right to pay off the bonds and pay off the loan on any scheduled payment date in full. Therefore, you have maximum flexibility on your balance sheet. In bond financing, you have the potential, the possibility of a reserve fund. So when you have a reserve fund, the investors are asking you to set aside capital into a separate bucket, and you can't use that bucket. You can use that bucket in later years to pay down the principal, but in the earlier years, you cannot. So that those funds are locked up, and you could have used those dollars for other departments within the city. With direct lending, we don't have a reserve fund. The interest rate risk. In a bond financing, it may take you 6 to 9 months to structure a financing, and you don't know what the interest rate is until the day you sell the bonds. So it's similar again to buying gas at the pump. You don't know what the price of gasoline is until the day you pull up to the pump. In direct lending, we give you a proposal. We hold that rate firm for 30 to 45 days. And as long as we close that financing within that 30 to 45 day window, the rate that we gave you in the proposal will match the rate in the final financing agreement. In fact, last night, we sent out a proposal to the town of Payson, and we've already given you a proposal to fund this deal by July 24th. We're ready to go. High fees. In a bond financing, again, this is the other side of the story. They give you a set of fees in one bucket and a low interest rate in a second bucket. But you have to take the fees and the interest rate to add it together to compute your total cost. In direct lending, we give you one low fee, whether you borrow $1 million or $100 million. It will be $20,000. That's it. In bond financing, as you borrow 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, those fees increase. Ours do not. When you sell bonds, when you have these fees, those fees, where do they go? They pay for your rating agencies, your trustees, your financial advisors, your ongoing disclosure requirements, your bond counsel, and your underwriters. With us, again, it's just a $20,000 fee. That's it for documentation. When you sell bonds at a premium, so imagine you need $19 million, but you get this proposal that you're going to need $20 million. So that's the other $1 million in fees that are go to pay the underwriter, the rating agencies, the trustees, the bond counsel. You don't have that with direct lending. If you finance that deal with bonds, now you're financing 20 million in bonds and not 19. You've got to pay back $20 million, not 19 million. And then if you do it as you sell your bonds at a discount, that means that you are taking in $18 million of capital, but you are having $19 million of a financing. So you're selling your bonds at a discount. So you just have to be careful and make sure you add both the fee bucket and the interest rate bucket together. Next slide, please. So here's a side-by-side comparison of bond financing and direct lending. And there's an outline of the fees. You can see you've got the legal, the rating agencies, the underwriters, the trustees, the financial advisor, and that premium of $900,000. Where is that going? Well, that's another way to, that's the additional $1 million that I told you about. And that money is typically going to the firms that structured your financing. And then you've got ongoing disclosure for the next 20 to 30 years. And then lastly, you have your staff's time that is taken away from other important projects that you may have them doing, that they've got to meet with legal counsel to make sure that you're in compliance with all the bonds. With direct lending, you're going to prepare your audited financials every single year. And we're going to go on your website and pull your audited financials so we don't bother you. And at the bottom, you can see that bond financing, you've got $19 million plus your $1.3 million in fees and premium for a total of $20.3 million. On the right side, you've got $19 million plus a $20,000 documentation fee, a total of $19 million and $20,000. Next slide, please. This is my last slide. And it's exactly what I explained on the previous slide. But basically, as you can see, in the early years, you're paying.
Excuse me, I can't see any of these slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can zoom in, are you able to zoom in?
Jim, I'm taking a picture with my iPad and zooming in.
I can send the same thing to you. Can you open it up from there?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's
Is that better?
better.
Okay, so as I may need you to move it down to the bottom shortly here. But go up to the top, I'm sorry, go up to the top. You can see that in the earlier years, you're going to pay little to no interest. In a bond financing, that's what I stated in the earlier years, you're paying very little principal back, mostly interest, I'm sorry. And that financing is non-callable. You cannot pay it off early. Scroll to the bottom, please. As you can see right there at the 20-year, at 20 payments, that's 20 payments, not 20 years, 2 payments a year. So that's at the 10-year mark. That's when you can typically begin to pay off your bonds at that point in time. And then at the bottom, please. You have $37.2 million in total cash flow out of the city's pocket. So if you see the 20.33 million in principal plus the 16.89 million in interest, you add the two together, it comes out to $37.2 million. Can you go back up to the top and move to the right, please? The next table to the right. So this is what we proposed in our to the town last night. We have level principal and interest payments. You have 2 payments a year of $930,000 and change. You can see that you have an interest component on the first payment of $721,000 of that $930,000, and you're paying back $209,000 of principal immediately. On the second payment, you have a payment of $930,000. Notice that your interest component went down from $721,000 to $713,000. Why is that? Because you paid down some principal. And then to the right of that, you have your principal component that is now moves from $209,000 up to $217,000 of principal that you paid back. Can you scroll to the bottom? So this occurs for the entire life of the financing. And at the very bottom, you can see that you have $19 million of principal that you borrowed, not $20 million. You had $18.2 million of interest. But at the end of the day, you had $37.2 million of principal and interest. So they both match. But here's the unique thing about this proposal. That rate is locked. On the left side, we don't know what the rate is for another 6 to 9 months. So oil prices can go back up and then interest rates will go back up. There could be another war. A lot of things can happen we have locked our interest rate to the town. And lastly, and most importantly, it is complete flexibility. In that first column, you're able to have a stable payment, make the same payment each year. And then if you decide to pay us off, you can pay us off on any scheduled payment date. So any one of those 40 semi-annual payments, you can decide rates went down enough, you want to refinance it or pay us off, you can exit the loan. Again, maximum flexibility. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So when you say exit the loan, do we have to pay a fee when we exit?
So,
Is that the $20,000 fee or is
no,
that a
sir.
different fee?
So move up to line 24. So line 24, you can see you've got a $930,000 payment, and move to the left a little bit, please, all the way to the far left. I'm sorry, to the right, So if you look at line 24's, you've got 11.6 million. That's what you owe. You add the 11.6 million plus the 930,000. You add it together, that's what it would take, $12.5 million in change to get out of the loan on that date, and you're out.
I can't, it's 12 point what million to get out?
So, sir, if you add the payment due
Yeah.
of 930,000
Mhm.
plus its corresponding purchase option amount of 11,673,000, you add those two together, that's what you would owe to exit the loan on that date. And any corresponding date, you add the payment due plus the purchase option amount, and you can exit the loan. Move all the way to the bottom one more time. As you can see, it goes all the way down to zero.
Is it a percent of the balance left?
Right, it's typically 105% of the outstanding principal balance in that far right column, You add those two together, and that's it. If you do not pay off the loan, then you only owe what's in the column with the $930,000. Sir,
So the rate you presented to the deal to the town is at 7.59 on 20-year. What would it be at a 10-year term?
10-year term, you're probably going to be 60 basis points less than that. So you're going to be around 7%. If you do a 10-year loan, then your payment would obviously go up significantly.
Previously, when you were here, the interest rate presented was 5.14%, but the
Right.
Federal Reserve has stayed pretty steady since then. So why the big 2% increase from then to now?
When we went back to our legal counsel, we asked them, was the interest income column, that column with the 18 million, was that column exempt from federal taxation to the lender? Our attorneys notified us that no, it is not exempt from federal taxation. So now we have to pay taxes on that 18.2 million to the federal government. So that's about 21%. So the rates go up. The rates have to go up to reflect the amount that we have to pay to the federal government. So if you are borrowing money, if the city is borrowing money for capital equipment or a new building, under section 103 of the IRS code, the interest income is exempt from federal taxation. We don't have to pay taxes on that $18.2 million. And so therefore, we can lower the interest rate, which would lower the $18.2 million by the amount that we don't have to pay federal taxes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was under the impression that initially we had some special rules that we could potentially give that advantage to the town. That does not exist.
Is that a recent change, or because you've done these for towns PSPR?
Yeah, we
spot
did it.
before?
We did it for the town of Colorado City. And we recently submitted to your town a copy of that financing agreement that we completed with the town of Colorado City.
And the proposal you sent to the town, is that for a 20-year term or a 10-year term?
It's a 20-year term. I thought the 20-year term was the lower payment to give you more cash flow. If you want a 10-year term, we can have that to you tomorrow. If we're going to finance it for 20 years, we'll definitely finance it for 10.
I'd like to see the numbers for 10 years myself.
I have it to you in the morning.
Me as well.
Does the rate change on 10 as opposed to 20?
Little bit.
No doubt.
He said 60 basis points less.
Okay.
Roughly 60.
And we can refinance that.
If you choose to, on any scheduled payment date.
So if we refinance, is there another payment? I mean, an extra payment for refinancing?
Add
Be it the left
payment-
column to the right?
And that's it.
That's what you're saying?
You're out.
Okay.
That's it. Just that.
Nothing else. No reporting, nothing.
Any other questions?
Oh, I think it's great information. I appreciate you laying out the differences and I'm excited to see the next phase of it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck catching your flight.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
And is Jeremy in?
We shut down.
Mr. Mayor, next we have Jack Leeper with Stiefel
Oh, the 87, he doesn't know that.
and I guess
87
we'll see it
South
from
is
here.
shut
You'll have to
down
introduce
for the
Jeremy.
truck fire.
Yes.
I didn't know.
All right.
We get a room.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for having me back. My name is Jack Leeper. I'm with Stiefel. We're the town's bond underwriter. With me today is Jeremy Knutson. He's out of our Chicago office, similar to Omar Dagestani, who spoke last time and is an expert on the pension topic. Jeremy's worked with Omar for a number of years and is our pension expert tonight. So he's going to quick share a screen on our presentation, and we'll address some of those items brought up in the previous presentation and some refreshed numbers on the public bond option.
Thank you, Jack, and just want to make sure folks can hear me okay.
Yes.
And I understand this is probably a little hard to see on the screen. I know we, I think, brought some hard copies, which might make it easier to follow along, and happy to try to zoom in as well to make it as easy as possible to follow along. But really appreciate the time, and I wish I could be there in person. Not least of which be to see my folks that live down in Tucson, and my grandma who's 103 in Tucson. So hope to get the chance to come out and visit soon. But appreciate the time to present and recap the Stiefel proposal here. I know you've heard the pitch from my colleague Omar, who unfortunately couldn't be there in person, but we just want to highlight a couple of key points, some really important differences, I think, to the other proposal here, and certainly want to leave time to answer questions and delve into more detail to allow you to make the most informed decision possible. So a couple things here, Stiefel has done something on the order of 36 pension bond transactions in Arizona, several more around the country, totaling several $billion. This is an area of the bond market that we know extremely well. We have a large team that focuses on this sector. And so we understand how investors think about this product. We understand how rating agencies think about it. And that has allowed us over the years to develop a structure that produces a conservative and efficient result for our issuer clients, and something that puts our clients in a position for long-term success. What we're showing on the page here is a summary of our plan. A couple of key points. What we show on the right is the red line is what we call the status quo, what the town currently owes for its police and fire, for the PSPRS pension payments over time. Those are payments that are sort of front-loaded through 2037, but there's the long tail that goes out actually to 2048. Those payments are subject to change depending on PSPRS's investment return results over time, assumption changes like longevity. As people live longer, that's great for humanity, but it's bad for pension math. It costs more to pay those benefits over a longer period of time. And then there are just other factors that come into play, like the cost of payroll. As payroll costs go up, as you have to provide raises to staff, that has an impact in the long-term pension costs. That's all encompassed in what PSPRS provides as the long-term funding schedule, that red line. What we do when we're looking at this from a bonding perspective is we structure bonds, very finely tuned to match as closely as possible the term and details of that payment schedule. That's important for a number of reasons. We don't want to put the town into 20 years of debt when it's otherwise paying to PSPRS a schedule that is largely repaid by 2037. So we want to structure the bonds accordingly. That drives a lower borrowing cost for the town. What we're estimating in the current market is bonds that are fully repaid by 2037 at an approximate borrowing cost of 5.26%. So that borrowing cost will be locked in when the bonds are sold. That typical process is, you could call it 6 or 8 weeks, depending on, some of the details and how quickly we get moving on legal documents and the like. Jack will certainly be able to dig into the details on that timing. But over that, once the bonds are sold, that interest rate is locked in the current market. We think 5.26% is a conservative assumption, and that encompasses all the costs. We call it the all-in TIC, all-in true interest cost, because that builds in all the costs for the underwriting expenses, legal expenses, ratings, and the like. What that produces for the town is, with about a $20.84 million deal size, you repay your pension fund deposit of about $19.1 million. So that's the money that you would send over to PSPRS. They would invest it alongside their billions of dollars of other assets. We would repay the OPEB liability that's much smaller, about $238,000. We would also set aside what we're calling contingency reserve fund. So this is a reserve fund that's held by the town, not to give bondholders more security. There's actually no reserve needed for bondholders given the town's credit. That reserve fund that's sized currently to about 5% of the total deal size is held by the town as a sort of a budgetary buffer. So, pensions are always changing. The PSPRS over time is reviewing its assumptions on things like longevity and investment return. And as they make changes to those assumptions, if in 5 years they review their actuaries' assumptions and say, you know what, our assumed investment return shouldn't be 7.2%, it should be 7% flat. That would flow through to every participant within PSPRS. Liabilities would increase and participants would have to pay for that. Those things are not the responsibility of any one city or town in Arizona. Those are determined by the actuary and the board of the retirement system. But we recognize those things happen over time. The contingency reserve fund would be held by the town to help buffer against those types of changes so that you're not left with a new unfunded liability that you have no plan to deal with. That's something that we've had a lot of success with in other communities throughout Arizona and around the country. Rating agencies like to see that because it shows that you're not treating this just as a one-time sort of kick the can type of product, that you're really being thoughtful, that you recognize this is a long-term liability, requires a long-term solution. And that's something we've found to work very well. Pension bonds have risks. We're very upfront about that. Investment return of the bond proceeds is a risk that is always going to be present. That's not something Stifel is not involved at all on the investment side. That's entirely up to the pension system and its board. But we recognize that risk is out there, and we think the contingency reserve fund is one way to give the town one tool to help protect against those future risks. The end result that we come to is that this type of structure at 5.26%, building in that reserve, building in all of the costs, produces approximately 2.6 million of estimated benefit to the town. That's about 12.49% of total deal size. We think that's an appropriate way to sort of measure the potential outcome here. And the potential benefit is coming from the difference between that 7.2% and our estimated total cost of 5.26%. At the end of the day, this is a sort of math problem of how can you reduce the cost of that long-term pension liability. And I would say as a bond underwriter that's done a lot of these transactions in Arizona and around the country, if you can't produce a structure that's materially lower than that 7.2% that PSPRS is effectively charging you to have this liability, then the deal it doesn't make sense. Rating agencies would not view that favorably, and there'd just be no reason to move forward. You wouldn't be able to produce savings without having that differential in interest rate. So I think that's something that's very important to focus in on. You know, that is a taxable interest rate, as we know from having done many of these transactions around the country. And again, that's all taken into account in our estimated cost of borrowing. I want to make sure we leave time for questions, so maybe I'll pause there and see if Jack has anything to add at this point, or happy to talk more in detail about anything within our proposal.
I have a few things to add, but maybe after, if anyone has any questions for Jeremy so far. Nothing yet. Jeremy, do you want to go over the next couple slides, or
Sure.
about wrap
So
up with the- or
what
go ahead,
I'll
thank
what I'll show if we flip to this slide with the tabular results, this is just the sort of numbers detail beyond you know, that is part of the graph on the prior page. What we're showing here is just the actual dollar amounts for the debt service cost year over year. So in this third column, debt service, those are the payments at our assumed interest rate. So this is something, again, we're shortening the payment stream actually versus what you would otherwise owe to PSPRS. That helps reduce the cost to the town. And, you know, in each of these years, you're paying both principal and interest, and, you know, those totals are around $2.5 million per year. Again, we think that's something, structuring your debt against what you would otherwise be paying to the pension system, I think is a a market standard, very appropriate way to evaluate the efficacy of this type of product. This is very, very different from a capital project borrowing for a 10-year or 20-year capital asset. The liability in question here, the bulk of that liability goes out to 2037. We know what that shape looks like, and we structure the bonds accordingly to give you the best sort of apples to apples comparison. That's something that rating agencies are comfortable with seeing when they evaluate this. And it just makes sure that you're not paying off over a 20-year period what you would otherwise be paying for a shorter period of time. The other thing I'll point out on this page is that fourth column, CRF interest at 3.1%. That's that contingency reserve fund that I mentioned. That's held at the town. That's not committed to bondholders. That's the town's money that you can use for pension-related purposes if those costs change over time. And so the town is able to invest that money when it's not needed. And the 3.1% is a very conservative short-term investment rate that you might hold, if you were to go out and buy say a 6-month treasury, a very safe liquid investment that you hold at the town. 3.1% is not something that, Stifel is recommending that you go out and lock that in. That's just what we view as a safe conservative assumption to show that's the town's money. And at the end of the day, that contingency reserve fund amount can be applied to unforeseen pension expenses. If you get to the end of the deal and it's all worked as anticipated, that's the town's money to use for any lawful purpose. I think there, other slides that we have here share a little bit of the extensive experience we have throughout Arizona on this exact type of transaction. And the various elements. A lot of the deals that we've done in Arizona have included that type of reserve fund. That's been a very effective way to sort of manage against some of those unknown risks that exist. And we're very proud of our work with issuers throughout Arizona. Happy to talk about any detail that you'd like there. And then we have some additional detail that I think has, been covered in prior discussions. We're always happy to dig into how that liability came to be, and how best to address that over time, as well as what risks are involved with any pension debt, regardless of sort of the method of sale. But really, our job as the bond underwriter is to get you the absolute best and lowest cost of funds possible. The way that we can do that is certainly knowing the structure and how to reduce some of those outside risks. Beyond that, it's talking to investors, getting as much possible competition as we can for your bonds, and using that competition to drive down that cost. The 5.26% is not known until the bonds are sold. And the hope is that once we get out and market a deal to investors, given our experience in this space, we know who likes to buy this kind of product. We know how their behavior has changed over time, and we can use that market knowledge to create that competition among investors, drive down that cost to the town, and ultimately work to the town's benefit through that public marketing process. Maybe with that, I'll turn it back over to Jack. We have an estimate for a financing schedule here, and happy to again answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. So to go through to summarize what Jeremy said, we're coming to you right now. The tentative structure of the transaction is to match your future unfunded payments through 2037. So we're proposing an 11-year deal. That's very flexible. We could go longer, we can go shorter. That's the beauty of the public bond market. We're not locked into a 30-year schedule. We're not paying interest only unless the town wanted to. I don't think they would. The interest rates are lower The gentleman gave an indicative rate. When you're doing a pension transaction like this, the key is the interest rate. So it's the comparison between your financing cost and the assumed rate of return of the plan. So the bigger the difference there, the more savings to the town. A public sale is more expensive from a cost perspective, paying the attorneys, paying the underwriter, paying rating fees, things like that. But when you're doing a $20 million financing over 10, 11 years, the interest cost is the key cost of the transaction. So it far outweighs those increased costs. The interest rates are fixed after pricing. We don't know what they are yet, but after the pricing day, when we go to sell the bonds, they become locked in for the life of the bonds. They won't change over time. We will not need to fund a reserve fund for investors. Jeremy spoke a couple times about a reserve fund that for the town's benefit that the town would hold, but we wouldn't need to fund a reserve fund for the benefit and security of the bondholders. We can go pretty fast if the town gives us the green light and they want it to close quickly. Like Jeremy said, probably 6 to 8 weeks, start to finish on a public bond sale if we were really motivated to get it closed quickly. And as far as the premium bond and the discount bond discussion, because these are taxable bonds, because they're not for public infrastructure, they need to be taxable. The taxable market, we don't worry as much about the bond premium and discount bonds. The taxable market likes them to be par bonds, which means they're priced at principal at that stated interest rate. So there wouldn't be, a huge add-on for bond premium or discount. I'm not quite sure what that discussion was, but taxable market, we price at par, so that's not even an issue. With that, can we answer any questions about our presentation or the bond sale route?
I have a quick question. I was looking at the ratings here. And do you have the rating for patient at this particular point in time?
Well, when we were in the process of that bond transaction in 2024, S&P rated those bonds at a AA-, which was a very strong investment grade rating. Since those were never issued, the rating's no longer outstanding, but that's what Standard & Poor's did rate the town. And that's a very strong investment grade rating. We'd expect you to at least get that rating if we went through that rating process again.
So you're not seeing any type of significant change or anything to that effect at this point in time?
I wouldn't see any, unless there was a dramatic financial change at the town in the past year, which I don't think there has been. I don't think certainly that there wouldn't be a downgrade. And certainly I'd think generally ratings don't move very quickly. They wouldn't move that fast. So I'd be pretty confident in that AA- this time around as well.
So on the interest rate, you're talking 5.26?
Correct.
Now, if we do a fast pace on this, and it comes back at 6.5, and we don't know if we want to do that or not, can we jump out of the situation, or is there an obligation? I guess, is there an obligation if we give you the green light?
Well, so what would happen is we potentially get the direction to proceed sometime soon, and we'd start the bond sale. You would eventually get an authorizing resolution that the council would vote on, typically giving town finance staff the ability to enter into the transaction at pricing. If interest rates were increased that dramatically, we simply don't. If town staff directed us to not do it because interest rates have risen so dramatically, we just don't do the sale. So you're only stuck until you're only locked in when we price the bonds and the bond purchase agreement is signed by either the town manager or the CFO. But we can, up until that pricing date, we can stop. There's no obligation to issue bonds.
So if for example, we say yay today, you can move in 6 to 8 weeks on that and get a lock on the interest rate?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Just to add to that, if you say go and you don't like the interest rate, you don't like the market, or you just decide to go a different route before those bonds are sold, you don't owe Stifel a penny. If you've gone through the rating process, if you've, engaged lawyers, there might be some of those costs that that are incurred subject to those other service providers. But Stifel, we only get paid if the bonds are sold. And so, our job would be to serve the town. If for any reason the bonds aren't sold, you don't owe Stifel anything. You won't be getting a bill.
To add on to that, the only fee that really you would end up with if a bond sale doesn't happen is that rating fee. The rest of the professionals that work on these transactions are like us, and we only get paid if there is a bond financing that closes. And then the rating fee, typically 20 to 30,000. So that's really the only fee that you might be stuck incurring if you were not to do a sale. And most of the time, if we know that it's not going to happen, we can stop the rating people in time. Sometimes we can't. But that's sort of the only cost item you may be stuck with.
On the rating fee, is there a time frame? I mean, I don't know what I'm saying here, generally speaking.
No, that's a good question. Typically, we'll schedule the rating call depending on the financing calendar and schedule we choose. Once we have that rating discussion with the rating agencies, they'll take that data. They have their own committee that they present to, and then they assign a rating. I've been told, by the time they've gone to committee and assigned a rating, that's when they really, they can't reverse the charge or not charge. But typically we can design the schedule such that that process happens at the end of right before we publish the offering document and price the bonds. So if there was a change of interest doing the transaction, we'd push that the point of no return, we'd push that part to the end as far back as we could so that we could avoid it.
Unlike a loan, there is no locked interest rate. It's whatever it is the day that they go to sale. Is that correct?
Correct. It would be fixed on that day, and then it wouldn't change through the life of the bond.
Got it over there.
Thank you. Thank you both for your presentations. I just want some clarification on the process. Maybe staff can help too. If we were to say, go ahead and choose you over direct financing tonight, you would still have to go put together a proposal and put everything in motion and then come back to us for a authorizing resolution. Is that correct?
Correct. We would recommend an excise tax revenue secured transaction. So your bond attorneys, Greenberg Traurig, will prepare that authorizing resolution for you to vote on. It'll also contain many of the bond purchase agreement, which would be between the town and Stifel, and some of the other legal documents. But that main one would be the authorizing resolution, which again is a parameters resolution that says certain parameters may not be exceeded. So you could say, we don't want bonds past 15 years. So no matter what happens, if that's in the resolution, we can't exceed 15 years. Obviously, we'd be doing whatever town staff directs us. And certainly we couldn't exceed what's in the parameters in the resolution, but you would have a not to exceed interest rate in the resolution, typically a final maturity and a maximum par amount. So you could set certain limits that we could not exceed no matter what. And certainly we'd be looking to meet your objectives otherwise, and with the direction of town staff, if you want to see a certain savings level, we'd recommend some flexibility in the resolution in case the market moves. But certainly you can cap the interest rate there. And then when it comes to it, when we come to sell the bonds and the interest rate market isn't what we want, town staff, council could simply direct us to either press pause or shelve the deal.
Follow up on that then. At the time of the resolution, authorizing resolution, we heard from Stifel this time in 24 the importance of being agile and flexible in the market. lot of unknown uncertainties. And at that point, for that agility and flexibility, is it beneficial to us to get in the market as soon as possible after that resolution, authorizing resolution?
I believe the plan would be to not include an emergency clause, so we would need to wait 30 days until after.
60, I think, right?
30.
Is it 30? Okay.
August 12th.
And that's okay in terms of being agile and flexible in an uncertain market?
It's as agile as we can be without an emergency clause. Certainly, we hope that the interest rate market doesn't change dramatically. It can. We all see what's going on in the world right now, but of course, there's been volatility for the past 6 years. We certainly hope, we don't expect that there's a huge interest rate increase over the next 2 months. But we would be as agile as we can. If we really wanted to move quickly, we'd probably look to get that resolution adopted as soon as possible to get that 30 days starting. But that should still allow us to kind of be in that 6 to 8 to 10 week.
People's recommendation last time was most of these transactions, if not all, are done with an emergency clause to take advantage of, or to put us at the most advantageous position in an uncertain market. But you're comfortable with not having that agility and flexibility this time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned a word. Well,
Yeah.
I want to go on the one
Oh, I
word.
didn't say anything.
Par. You said par?
That's short for principal amount.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I didn't know what par meant.
Brett, your light's on.
Oh, but nobody's home.
So the August 12th, and in your documents here, it says assumes emergency clause adoption. So I just want to clarify a couple of things. You're not recommending the financing option. You're recommending the bond option. Correct?
That's correct.
And then, and maybe Christina, this may be, I'm throwing this at you sideways too, but how would we know? I don't want to head down a path and then go, oh, well, you have to have the emergency clause invoked.
No,
I
I'm not gonna do that.
just don't want to waste time and all this. Is it a possibility that could happen?
I would say based on, I think, the comments that Jack made, that obviously it looks like they can be flexible without an emergency clause,
Okay.
as best as they can be, right? And also with an emergency clause, you need supermajority, right?
Right,
So you need 6 out of the 7, and I'm not sure that would happen anyway. So
Yeah,
that's probably not going to be a possibility.
right.
And it looks like this could go through without
But-
one.
Could we not sign the minutes the night of the resolution and save the 2 weeks lag on getting the minutes approved and start our 30-day window 2 weeks earlier?
We typically you would want the resolution. That's usually the governing authorizing document. We only usually default to minutes if we don't have some type of actual approval
Okay. I
document.
thought we had to have the minutes approved. to
No, as
start
long
the
as we
30-day
have
Clock.
an actual approval, whether it's ordinance resolution, then that's when the clock starts, once it's approved by council.
All right, so, but the recommendation that you have is like an 11-year bond.
Correct. We're flexible on that. We can change that. It's just currently set up to match your current unfunded payment schedule.
Okay.
And this presentation, I apologize, that draft calendar shouldn't have said assumes emergency clause.
Okay, because I saw that and I'm like, did you not learn from the last time? I'm totally joking,
Yeah, I know.
but okay, because that caught my radar, but those are my questions.
Resolutions don't need 2 hearings, is that correct then?
No, resolution just one.
Thank you both for the presentation. I think just to touch on the emergency clause, since we've been talking about it, obviously I think there's upside and downside to initiating that, because there's flip side rate or chance that the rates drop. I mean, I think they have been holding pretty steady. So on the flip side, if I'm understanding correctly, by not doing the emergency clause, we could actually be improving our chances to potentially have lower rates as well.
Correct.
I know we're making assumptions here, but just so we understand both sides of the coin. I am a little confused though, because on the page 1, it's obviously going off of a assumed 11-year schedule. But then on page 2, if I'm reading this correctly, it's calculating out 20 years, 2027 to 2048.
Page 2, so the bond to debt service, your principal and interest payments would be column B there, and those end in fiscal 27, or sorry, fiscal 37.
Okay.
The other columns go out. Your budgeted unfunded liability with PRS actually goes out to 48. So part of the benefit of the bond is we would do an 11-year, and we're actually shortening the amount of time you'll be paying those unfunded pension payments. Column C is that contingency reserve fund held by the town. That theoretically you could hold all the way through 48, earning interest, and then savings are the other 2 columns, which go out, to 48 as well. But the bonds, 11 years.
And
Perfect.
what security documents have to be provided? You said excise tax.
Similar to the 24 excise tax obligations, there will be an official statement, which includes all the material, financial information on the town. So that would be part of council packets. You'd be able to see and review that document, but that'll show a historical look at the town's local sales tax, excise tax revenues, coverage on debt service, which of course is very strong because the town currently doesn't have any debt. They'll show demographics of the town, local economy type information, potentially some property tax information, but that'll be the securities document.
Okay.
I apologize if I'm not seeing it on here. What is the total expected all-in amount at the assumed 5.26% rate for the 11 years?
For the principal and interest?
Correct. What we would be paying as a town for the bond principal and interest.
So page 2 there, if you go to that column B again and look at the bottom, that green row is your totals. So it would be about 27.3 is what we're estimating. 27.3 million principal and interest.
So there's no other costs on top of that we need to account for in our decision making.
So we've included the costs of the public bond sale within these debt service numbers, so they're baked in.
No other fees on top of that. At the assumed 5.26% for 11 years, it'd be 27,292.
There are some very small ongoing fees, like you'll have a bond trustee serve as the servicing bank to pay investors. That's usually like $1,000 or $2,000 a year. That's maybe the only ongoing fee. Everything else is one time paid at closing from bond proceeds.
Okay, perfect. And as far as funding it, obviously we have the got plenty of taxes in place to fund the bond. Would we, and this may be a question for our finance department, could we justify this bond with the and paying it back with the 0.88 sales tax, or does it have to be tied to the 1%? Just to give us the flexibility if we decide not to keep the 1% in place or reallocate that. Can we use the 0.88 to pay for this bond?
That 0.88, as far as I know, it was originally enacted to pay for pension things. That was changed for a brief time and then switched back to pensions. So certainly you can use that to pay the debt service on these bonds because this is to address your pension unfunded liabilities. What would probably happen with the whole excise tax deal is as legal security for the bonds, you'd pledge, I think the town's current total sales tax rate is 3.88. So that's all legal security for the bond investors. In the hypothetical event there's a default, they would have a legal claim to those revenues, but certainly you wouldn't, you'd look to pay that with that 88-cent pension sales tax to the extent. I don't know how much money that produces, but you can pay that debt service with any of your excise taxes.
Nothing tying our hands though to the 1% in correlation to the bond. Obviously we have to have the funding to pay for it, but nothing ties us to the 1%. Because I know that was initially enacted for the previous bond. So I just want to make sure we still have flexibility.
Nothing would tie you to, nothing would prevent you from getting rid of that 1% sales tax. the one governor is when you're doing these excise tax deals, you need to have a coverage ratio at a certain level. So when we were doing that 24 sale, I believe you had a total pledged excise tax revenues of about 20 million. And I'm forgetting the debt service, but just for simplicity, let's call it 2 million a year. So that's a 10 times coverage ratio. What you will be promising to investors is that if the coverage ratio drops below a certain amount, that you'll raise sales taxes. So given that you have such a large amount of excise taxes and such a small amount of debt, your coverage ratio is going to be huge. But to the extent that you wanted to remove that 1% sales tax, I think you would still have plenty of legal coverage. But in the future, if you were looking to do public infrastructure or anything like that, you may one day, I think you have a lot of capacity, but one day you may get close to that 2.2 times coverage requirement. And in that event, you're required to raise your sales taxes. But that's a long way.
Right. No, I just want to make sure. And last question I have, in the assumption of the 5.26% sales tax, are you accounting for any potential drops in the market? Or is the 5.26% based on current rates not changing and what you're assuming our credit rating is? I just want to make sure that we're not taking into account any variables with the decision outside of our control.
Correct. So the 5.26% is as of, we got a interest rate schedule from our underwriter, I believe last week. So it's very current. I don't think we've cushioned it dramatically for increases or assumed there would be decreases. So that 5.26% is assuming that AA minus from S&P, that you'll be using your excise tax credit and using current market rates.
So once the bond is issued or sold, the interest rate is whatever it was at the date of sale till it's paid off.
Correct.
Okay.
Now there's going to be, not to complicate things, each year's principal payment is its own bond. It'll have its own interest rate attached to it, but the blended average of all those bonds is that plus costs is the 5.26%. But those will be locked in on the pricing day and not change.
What's the incremental amount of the bonds that we're selling? I mean, it's a $20 million bond, but in what increments? Or are you finding somebody that wants to buy the whole 20 million?
We'll go out to the market though. There's typically, I don't know, Jeremy, 20 to 30 buyers on each of these transactions. So they'll all be competing to get these bonds. The more competition you get, the more we can squeeze those interest rates down.
And so over that 11-year period, so just looking, the 2027 year has about $1.1 million of bonds in that year. That increases slightly throughout the schedule. To 2037 has closer to 2.5 million per year. And so we're out talking to investors. Some investors might want to buy the whole structure. Some might say, I only want to buy bonds in the first 2 years. Some might, so we can mix and match in that way. I think that's one of the real strengths here. We're able to cobble together that demand from as many investors as want to participate. And that's what helps create that competition. So there are bonds maturing in each of those years, and that allows you to sort of bring together the right mix of demand for that lowest overall cost.
So if they go to the bond auctions, what's the smallest denomination grandma can buy?
Grandma can buy as small as $5,000.
Okay. Jim, you got Glide on?
Yeah. I was just wondering that 5.26%, you're saying that loads all the costs into it. And with all those costs in there, are those costs considered like a prepaid finance charge then to come up with that rate?
Yeah, so those costs will be paid on the closing date with the proceeds of the bond sale.
Okay.
That's your bond attorney, that's underwriter's counsel, underwriter, the rating fees, the trustee fee. So yeah, all those get.
What is the bond rate itself? The bond rate isn't 5.26, but it's probably going to be what, 4.98 or?
Jeremy, do you have?
That's right. Actually, you're kind of right on the money. It looks like about 4.86%. So that's right. So you could think of that as, the difference there is the value of those fees that are all sort of itemized and provided to the town, well in advance of pricing.
Thank you.
And just, I would add to that, part of those fees are, with that $20 million of bonds to sell to the market, that's paying for Stifel's national sales force to make those calls to investors. That's sort of the part of the value of the service that we're providing there. So, and that's all encompassed in that total rate, but you're absolutely correct. The rate that would be paid to investors at the end of the day would be that average rate of about 4.86%.
Okay, all right, thank you. And the bond rating fee from the rating company, that's baked into this cake as well?
Correct.
Okay.
I have more of a question for probably Sheila. So out of our 19 million, for the PSPRS, that can be broken down, so we're split up between fire and police. Do you know what those break down to be roughly?
I have them here. If you give me just,
I
Jeremy,
think
do you-
I think I've got that. It looks like
Okay.
about 10.2 million for police, about 8.88 million for fire. And that's for the pension side. There's that small amount, about 230-ish thousand that's split between for the healthcare side of things as well,
Okay.
but slightly larger for police.
So, I guess my follow-up question to that is the about 7.2% penalty that we're paying to the PSPRS, is that weighted equally across those debts, or is it is that kind of averaged? Any
That's
idea?
That's the total of it's the same rate for PSPRS for everything.
Okay. They seem fairly comparable, so I was just brainstorming with an individual and they thought that it might make sense to maybe bond one of them and pay the other off directly or something of that nature, but okay.
Yeah, it's at PSPRS, it's one giant pot of money that's partly, sort of, you can imagine for efficiency's sake, they're able to pool everything together and treat it all as one. And so that's how they do that. That 7.2%, again, they can change that, and that has changed over time, but that applies to the entire pool.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Sheila? Is there anything else we need to do on this one? We don't,
not until later in the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
okay, okay. So brings us back to D1. Do you want to introduce Mr. Dorn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom Dorn with Dorn Policy Group is here with us tonight. Some of you have been down in Phoenix with Mr. Dorn, so you may have met him previously, but he has been working on behalf of the town, lobbying for the town's interest at the state level. And he has a presentation tonight to talk about some of the measures where he's advocated in our best interest there. So with that, Mr. Dorn, if you don't mind, please come on up to the podium.
I could barely understand anything you were saying there, sure. I got the name, but
The computer's in the way.
The computer was in the way.
Can't hear me, I'm sorry. I can restate that.
oh, well, we'll carry on.
You're gonna switch them? Okay, that's fine. I'll just say next.
I'll mess it up anyway, bro.
See if this works.
We're having technical problems, so I'll restate it just to make sure that those who are listening virtually can hear also. Mr. Dorn, Tom Dorn with Dorn Policy Group has been advocating, lobbying on the town's behalf at the state legislature for us during this session and during hopefully the upcoming off season on measures that affect our best interests. So he has a presentation prepared for you tonight to talk about some of the measures where he's advocated in our interest, and we'll share that with you now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me up today. By the way, it was raining on the way here, so that's a good thing.
Is it coffee?
There's a huge fire of a vehicle southbound, but hopefully that's fixed by now.
It's not.
It's not?
I'm watching it.
Oh, it's not? Oh, okay. It was massive. I hope it didn't cause another fire, but anyway, thank you for having me, and it's nice to be here to speak with all of you, and especially with Christina and Justin here. You're excellent attorneys. These guys are legend down at the Capitol and have represented cities well. So it's good to see them. Good to see them. Especially when he was a legislator back in the day. So very powerful.
Well, I'll say I remember him.
Yeah, there
I
you go.
lived in Mesa, but
There you go.
Yeah, I think I represented Charlie.
Well, it was nice to get to know you all. Well, I was listening to the presentations, but I was going through all your bios, so I got to know a little bit about you. Physical therapist, we represent physical therapists. And did you play Round Valley football? Yeah, and tennis. My tooth is hurting, so got to know all of your backgrounds a little bit. And just so you know a little bit about me, I grew up in Lake Havasu, so it was a small town, just like Payson back in the day. And so I understand the concerns and issues and of a small town, and it's very much tourism based. And so I can relate to many of the issues that Sheila and Darren have pointed me toward to help grow the economy and improve water and transportation issues. So anyway, we'll just move along. Am I going to do the clicking?
You just gotta
Oh, okay, click. How much, I know you have a long meeting, so I'll go fast. I tend to talk a lot. Okay, I'll really go fast. Okay, you know who the governor is. As you know, when the governor was elected, it was kind of a accidental situation. All of a sudden, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm the governor. What do I do?" But she has gotten her sea legs. I call it, she's really gotten her sea legs over her term, and has been able to represent her side of the spectrum well against the Republican legislature and try to work together for the most part. So just wanted to add that about her. Republican here's the breakdown. I mean, a lot of this you know, but I'm going to go fast. The breakdown in the Senate, 17-13, it's been that way for quite a while. The Democrats haven't controlled the Senate since 2000, back in the day, and that was when it was split 15-15. But in the House, there's 33-27. They've been close. The last go around, it was 31-29. It's interesting, the Democrats have always thought that they were going to take control, but they haven't had control since the 1960s. Back in the day when we went from when the districts were counties, and I think there was some federal law that changed it, and where we went to one person, one vote, and then we had 30 districts. So the Dems haven't had control of the House for a long time. There's our delegation, and as Mr. Marshall moved on, Sylvia Allen came back, and it was great to see her. Everyone loves her down there. And Mr. Blackman's has done a good job for the district, and of course Wendy Rogers. She's just fantastic and really go-to person over the last almost said semester, over the last session to help on the Payson issues. Here's the box score of the session. The crazy 2,100. I mean, back in the day, we used to have, there was a Dem and a Republican would get together, and they were the issue leaders, and they'd have a bill, and then people would sign on to the bill. Now every single person introduces a bill, and it's a lot of it's driven by social media. They want, oh, look at the bill I introduced. I'm important. And it's ridiculous. And most of them die. They're not even heard by the chairman. Sometimes the president, the speaker won't even assign them to committee. The governor likes to veto these bills. The Republicans have slowed down trying to send message bills up. Let's put her on the record to veto this. And but still, it is an election year, so they did do some of that. But some of it is just she says always work with my team, and they wouldn't work with her. And so there were a lot of things were just vetoed because if they worked with her, they get something through and signed in most cases. The general effective date, 90 days after the end of session. This is the state budget. It's just a pie. And the reason we put that pie up there is I want you to see all the education funding. You always hear people saying, we don't have money for education, not enough money for education. All that reddish, orangish color is is education. The next slide. These are some of the budget highlights. I highlighted all of that there at the bottom because the Highway User Revenue Fund, that's out in rural Arizona. That's our money. Pima County and Maricopa County, they have their own half-cent sales tax. And so the Highway User Revenue Fund, when they sweep that hurts rural Arizona disproportionately. And they always swear a blood oath. I'm not going to sweep the HERF. We're not going to sweep the HERF. But sure enough, they do. They took 10 million out of the state. The state highway fund is ADOT's portion of the HERF. They're the ones so in 87 and 260. And when they get work, that's ADOT's part of the HERF that is being. So they took money out of it and they put it over to DPS. Because constitutionally, the argument is, well, it's the administration of the highway system. So we got to change that. We need a law to change. Smart Fund, that's where, you can get kind of like WIFA, the Water Infrastructure Financing Authority, you can get grants. The Smart Fund, you can get grants. And I don't know if Payson has done that before. You've applied for a grant, but if you had money set aside for a transportation project, you were trying to draw some federal money down and you applied to get state money. So you can have the state money. You may throw a little in from your off your cash. And then it helps draw down federal money and the state will give you that. They swept that, but we got to fight to get that back. And what I want to tell you that if we can go to the next slide. These are what's called clawbacks. You'll see nothing from your area has been clawed back. And meaning, so if appropriations were made in previous years, they did not go back and claw it back and say, sorry, I know we gave you money for that bridge. Never mind, we're taking it back and put it in the general fund. That did not happen. And so I just wanted to show you that you're not on that list, and that you can thank Senator Rogers for that probably, and Mr. Blackman, because she was Senator Rogers was very influential in the budget. So I just wanted you to know that. Land use policy. Just interrupt me if you have any questions. Some of the things I just wanted to highlight on here, the Arizona Trail Fund, that did not get funded. I know the Arizona Trail does go through Payson, and so that's important. I know you would want to see that continue, especially with, these are tourists. They come through here. They're hiking the trail, but they're also tourists. The planned communities prohibition, I don't know how many planned communities other than the country club that you have in the city or in the town, but there was some design prohibition, some legislation to make it so the cities and towns could not enforce any of the design. And it's more brought to us by the developers. They didn't want the cities and towns to restrict completely what could or could not be in a planned community. So if you wanted more information on that, I'm happy to share that get some for you. I just put this for fun, the Jetsons bill, 1813. We have a Senator Farnsworth from the Far East Valley. He's fixed on someday we're going to be flying and we're all going to have a Jetsons mobile and fly out of our area. So they spend a lot of time on this stuff when there's other things we could be doing, but you never know. Maybe I'll eat my words someday and we'll be in our own air thing. And the last thing, just want to let the state land department, I know there's state land issues that we care about, and over by the airport, we're trying to set up a meeting with the state land department to deal with that issue. Whoever the governor is, it doesn't matter. the legislature likes to dangle the continuation of the governor's executive agency in front of like, well, you don't do it this way, we're not going to continue you. Next, I'm going as fast as I can. Water. And I just spent some time talking with Tanner Henry before this meeting to talk to him about the need for on the whole PFAS situation and how much that is costing the town. And so promised to bring that up with the Arizona Chamber because he explained to me the whole story and how it impacts the town. So working on that. Good thing you're not in it. You know, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I don't want to learn more about not being in an AMA, active management area, and how that affects you with regard to your water situation. And one other thing, the Colorado River litigation, that affects all of us as Arizonans. So we'll see what happens there. But in the budget, if it was one of the things listed, they did put $6 million for litigation. Next one. I just put that to show you. There's a representative, Gail Griffin. She represents the home builders. she represents the home builders, the cattlemen, the Farm Bureau, the realtors, and so she kind of carries their water, so to speak. And the governor didn't always agree, so the governor vetoed tons of her bills with regard to water. But I just put that for fun. And transportation infrastructure. The last thing I did want to talk about is Senate Bill, on January 20th, right out of the box. And so I'm telling you again, Senator Rogers being very effective. She had her bills, Senate Bill 1059. This is I called it the turn right of McDonald's bill. And I when I testified on it for the town, everyone knew, oh yeah, turning right at McDonald's. Everyone knew, exactly where that was, up in Payson. But the bill, $9 million in that, and I was on the phone a lot, texting with Sheila, giving me all the detail about, 25,000 vehicles and all that. So she was unable to get it in the budget because nobody got projects in the budget. So she asked for it. But she made the case and everyone understood. And so I think Payson's in a good position to help get funding in the future for that. But I know, I believe, I don't know if it got put in the 5-year plan. I know Lion Springs got put in the 5-year plan, but I'm not sure about if that turned. But that's something that will be worked on. Many rural transportation projects, because of the lack of revenue, did not happen. I already talked to you about a few of these other things. And the next one. Almost done. I don't know. Okay, I didn't put that in there. I was going to put a slide with all the ballot measures. There's 10 ballot measures. They're going to, and as you know, at the end of the legislative session, the Republicans are in control. So they try to determine what's going to drive Republicans to go vote. And so they put certain things on the agenda, on the ballot. And so a lot of them are out there, and some are needed. One of the things we did dodge the bullet, so to speak, was putting a referendum on that would have limited cities and towns and counties from raising any fees ever. And I think that's something where a lot of the Republicans that like their towns and cities said, you know what, that's a bridge too far. Oh yeah, it may drive people to the ballot, but my gosh, we'll be killing our cities and towns and counties if they would never be able to raise a fee or a tax. So, and ongoing issues, just wanted to mention that, the WIFA funding, Colorado River, till we see what happens there. There's a lot of money. There's $10 million put away at least for wildfires. And I know our delegation worked on that very much, meaning our legislative delegation, the 3 legislators in March left. Housing continues. There's the rural housing tax credit that did not go through. All the rural communities were working together on that. So hopefully something will happen next year. And then workforce is a statewide concern, obviously. So I know as fast as I can. I apologize if I went over my 10 minutes, but I just want to squeeze it all in for you. And be happy to answer any questions either right now or later.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay.
So,
All right.
so I spoke with a ADOT engineer 2 weeks ago, and he said that the right turn at McDonald's is in the queue for 28. So,
Okay.
does that with him being an engineer, is that for engineering in 2028 or beyond for construction?
Mayor and council, then you did mention that before the meeting, and I believe it's either, I need to check the 5-year plan to see if it was put in.
Okay.
But you have the political momentum with Senator Rogers and the representatives to get that. We fully expect revenues to maybe improve a little bit next year. Now that the flattening of the rate is fully implemented. And the revenue is coming in from the industry staying here and growing here in the state. So keep working on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, and hopefully.
I might have one question on the HERF funds where electric vehicles are not paying the tax at the pump. Are they considering that, that being put into the vehicle registration?
Mayor and council, that is the emerging issue. You know, education funding has kind of sucked the air out of the room always. But there's a real sense that our transportation infrastructure is really failing. And then when you look at roads, I mean, we have an 18-cent gas tax that has not been increased since 1991. And you have other states, conservative states, you know, like Wyoming and others that are increasing their gas tax. But many vehicles are also, you know, we're driving less because telecommuting. We're also being able to use social means. Cars are much more fuel efficient so that people aren't putting as much gas in. There's electric vehicles, as you bring up, that do not pay the gas tax. And so there have been efforts, they're just damaging the roads just as much as any other vehicle. How can we tax them? But there's all of a sudden you have the Tesla lobby, the Southwest Gas, natural gas lobby. And so the longer you go and let people make money off a certain thing, it's hard to regulate them and tax them because there's resistance. Many people in the transportation world think it's going to take an initiative from private industry to help generate revenue, pay for those things. I don't know if you'll be able to get a tax increase through the legislature. And registration increase would be considered increased revenues, which would require 2/3 of the legislature to do it. That's not happening. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
So we're getting back on track now, I believe. Going to agenda item A. Call to the public. As a reminder, it is election season and state law prohibits any town resource, including staff time, equipment, and anything of value to be used to influence an election. This prohibition applies to call to the public. You can talk about a town issue, but please do not advocate for a specific candidate or ballot measure. We appreciate your efforts to help the town comply with the state law and avoid using taxpayer monies to influence the election. Now is the time for call to the public, which allows citizens with an opportunity to speak on any issue within the legal authority and jurisdiction of the town of Payson. The town must abide by the Arizona Open Meetings Law. And its agendized item is the public's opportunity to be heard at this meeting. When called to speak, please approach the podium, speak towards the microphones, and your statements can be heard. Give your name. The town requests that you address your comments to the council as a whole. If you speak on an agenda item from today's meeting, you can wait until after that specific item is presented to speak, or you may state your comments now. Call to the public is regulated by time, place, and manner of restrictions. You cannot speak more than once at this meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and you may not donate your time to another speaker. So this meeting is to conduct town business. Courtesy and respect are appreciated. The town thanks you for coming to the meeting and sharing your thoughts. So let's get this started. Darlene?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Darlene Yonker DeLage. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak with you. And for once, it's kind of a positive thing, not negative. I'd like to read part of the summary that's in F1, which is the staff report to council regarding the property tax levy. On May, it says pursuant to council's direction after the public hearing on May 13, 2026, staff requests that council adopt the same property tax rate as 2025-2026 budget, 0.2855, raising the 26-27 property tax levy by 5.1% to $757,050. This increase is less than the statutory maximum and is below the 15% increase. A statement is, unfortunately, people often read or hear the negative in life rather than the positive, which is the reason why we need really clear, concise, non-legalese language when we are imparting information from the council to the public. That's okay. Thank you. So it's hard for the public to understand that this is not a tax increase when in effect their taxes are going to go up. And therefore they're blaming the council for this. And I think that it's important for you to make it clear to the public, however method you choose, that you have not raised the tax levy and therefore you have not raised the tax, but that it is the county assessor, because of the assessment value of your property, that causes this increase in your tax. I think that will help each one of you in your image to the community, and it certainly makes it a little clearer about what that's all about. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ralph Townsend?
He left.
Oh, Scott Townsend. Okay. Jeff Robbins?
Thank you, Town Council. Jeff Robbins, Payson, Arizona. I'd like to take a moment to discuss the folly of selling that property to an RV park. Municipalities buy land near the civic centers for necessity, for growth. Everybody does it for a need. Everybody does it because it's necessary. We all participated publicly in the CPAC committee. We all know that we need fire, police. Oftentimes we say this isn't big enough. We need to grow. There's no available land in our town to do these things. That's why it was purchased next door. So these important things, we can have a combined police and fire department. We can do a lot of things. We hire an out-of-town consultant to do an appraisal. I mean, I thought that's something you were against. This guy says, quote, excuse me, he doesn't like the way Gila County assesses property. Pardon me for a second. His opinion appraiser Seth MS is employed by Gila County are not sufficient. I wish he would talk to him something about my house. And there's no mention that that's our property. We firewised it. We did a survey to 14 feet that would cost anybody a bunch of money to do it. In your general plan, it says it's in a future growth area. To short sell that for some political purposes, tantamount to malfeasance in our opinion. There's a lot of opposition to this, and your job is to plan for the future. not sell it off for a buck. That is your job. That's what you're voting for. And I remind you, short-sighted town council sold a bunch of property up at the airport for non-aviation purposes. And now the airport needs a bunch of property that's not available. To an RV park? I mean, we've spent $5 million on a street right down the street because it was identified as over traffic and a health safety problem. And you want to bring a bunch of vehicles and motorhomes into that intersection and call that done? It's the same argument about the pink storage thing down the street that you don't advocate for. You want to bring it to my front yard. The public is outraged over this. And since we're the Transparency Council, you're not making big decisions without public input. I would assume before you made that decision, you would reach out to us and see how we feel about that bad decision. So thank you for the time. Tom Bennett? Staff? I'm gonna agree with Jeff about the Malibu property. There are a number of reasons not to sell the Malibu property. Do we want an RV park right here in the center of town? Do we want it affecting traffic going through the area? Is the property valued more than what the prospective sale price would be? But more than anything else, it's what Jeff said. We have a certain amount of land that that's owned by the town. And this is the kind of property which by its very nature adjacent here to town center could be needed later on and could be used for increasing the town center here or for some other town purposes that our residents would love to have done. So if we sell it, then it's gone. And would we ever get another piece of property like that that has such advantages for the town and for the residents? So I agree with Jeff. We should not sell the Malibu property. And it should stay and be used by our residents in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more calls to the public? Anyone on Zoom?
Hands raised.
Hearing and seeing none, let's move on to item B, consent agenda. Consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. And all I see tonight is approval of minute meetings as B1. So I ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting, June 10, 2026.
I'll make the motion. To approve the minutes. In B1 of the consent agenda.
A second.
I seconded.
On the computer, I motioned and Charlie second, but verbally Jim motioned and Steve seconded. So I think we got a third, fourth, and a.
So that's almost the whole
motion.
vote. We're
Yeah.
gonna put down.
Or all
Okay, minutes are approved 7-0. See current events. Presentation by town manager and or council member. Sheila, do you have one item it says?
Mr. Mayor, I have three, but they're really quick.
3? Okay, that's allowed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I wanted to come up to the podium because I need to invite someone up here with me to celebrate an achievement today. Meg. The Certified Municipal Clerk designation awarded through the International Institute of Municipal Clerks is designed to enhance the professional knowledge and performance of municipal clerks serving communities of all sizes. Earning this CMC designation is what they shorten it for because we have an acronym for everything, requires a combination of extensive educational coursework and meaningful municipal experience. Through quality educational programs offered in partnership with Arizona State University and national professional associations, the Certified Municipal Clerk Program prepares clerks to meet the challenges of the increasingly complex municipal clerk profession. Since 1970, the program has helped municipal clerks develop the skills and expertise needed to excel in public service. The town is pleased to announce that Megan Miller has earned the prestigious Certified Municipal Clerk designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. Since joining the town last year, Megan has worked diligently to complete the educational and professional development requirements necessary to achieve this accomplishment. So please join me in recognizing and congratulating Megan on this significant professional achievement.
No, you don't get to sit down. Come on.
I was not prepared for this, so I love doing this so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you and to serve the public, and the educational experiences have been above and beyond what I ever could have hoped or asked for. It's very intense, and so I am very proud of this. I don't normally frame a lot of things, but this is definitely one that gets hung on my wall. So, thank you guys very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Megan.
Congratulations.
Isn't this her second certification since she's been here?
It is, and she said a lot of test taking over the last year. So,
And working with all of us is a real test, isn't it?
and then you might be wondering, Bella, would you please stand up? This is Bella Zimmerman. Bella is a junior with Payson High School, and she is running our open meeting app this evening, and she's gaining very valuable, important professional experience, compliments of Gila County Summer Youth Program. So
Excellent.
great to have her here to help us. She's been in several departments already and maybe doing some work with one of our volunteer trail programs. So we're excited about that. And we hope that she will choose to join us again next year.
Oh,
Thank you.
And then I promised Steve I would make a plug since this is our last meeting before the 4th of July celebration. So just to remind everyone, 12 p.m. starts our celebration at Green Valley Park with the hot dog eating contest. So I hope there'll be several of you there. And if not, 1 o'clock right after that is the start of the family games, capped off by the fireworks after it gets dark.
Oh,
He ran out the door. I'm sorry, I don't know.
What would they be? Tofu hot dogs?
some you don't want to know what they are.
Hot nose sandwich.
Yeah.
That's it. I promised they would be quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Hearings and appeals, there's nothing. Resolutions and ordinances. F1, public hearing and possible action regarding ordinance number 2026-107, levying upon the assessed valuation of the property within the town of Payson, subject to taxation, a certain sum upon each $100 of assessed valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be required in the annual budget. less the amount estimated to be received from other sources of revenue, and providing funds for general municipal expenditures for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, and providing for immediate operation and effect of this ordinance. Open a public hearing. And David Christian. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Way back in May 13th, I think, we had our first discussion on the property tax and the mill rate associated with that levy. At that time, the council indicated a desire to hold the mill rate constant from one fiscal year to the next. So for the 2027 budget, we did incorporate the mill rate as it is currently at 0.2855. So what we have done with this budget is we've held that mill rate constant. We can't do anything about the levy, but the council has indicated a desire to keep the same mill rate. So the mill rate, as it is being read here, is constant, no change to that whatsoever.
Thank you.
So the increase we're seeing here is either an increase in appraised value or new construction? Is there anything else that goes into the increase?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. The assessed values are set at the county level. The property's class codes are set at the county level. There is some property that's centrally assessed at the state level. However, all those parameters, all those variables are outside the control of the town council.
Okay.
So the only thing that the council can offer here is a constant mill rate.
Okay.
Any increases that are associated or a consequence of that are outside the control of this council.
Right. Thank you.
And if I may, I just want to say that I am very, very appreciative of Meg and all of her solid assistance and advice in getting me through these first 3 months. So thank you.
One clarification question, just so previous councils have chosen to lower the property tax rate for this, resulting in, but we're choosing to keep it the same, which will actually increase a little bit more revenue than previous years.
Yes, Councilmember Hawes, the previous administrations have chosen to lower the mill rate, which has actually has some long-reaching consequences.
So we're not lowering taxes like previous councils on this item.
This council is holding the constant mill rate. That is just one factor in a whole algebraic equation to determine the overall property tax levy, which may or may go up depending on a number of factors. Some folks may get a tax break. Some people may get a tax increase. Those things are outside the parameters of your decision.
Sure. Thank you.
Public hearing, is that what we're supposed to be?
We have public hearing. So are there any public comments? Any on Zoom? No? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Any council discussion? Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding it's about 30-some thousand, the increase that may happen through assessments. And when you're looking at 500 or 5,000 properties, is that pretty close to what we have? I mean, that 36,000, if that's what it is, it goes into all the, it's such a small part, and Payson is only 4% of the property tax collection anyway. And, I would like to just say maybe looking in the next year, just eliminating the property tax since it's such a low amount. And the one thing about eliminating the property tax, it affects every Payson citizen, whether you're renting or whether you own, and it does not lower our tax collection from anybody outside of Payson. So I just think that may be a good thing to look at in our next year's budget.
Any other comments?
Well, I would support that we look in our next year budget to eliminate the property tax. So I would go along with something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, discussion going forward. You know, my years on the council, I have personally voted in favor of, you know, slowly lowering that mill rate as we try to get to a place where maybe, you know, the town of Payson isn't collecting a property tax and we do share that burden with all of those around us. And so I know it's a minimal amount that we gain by holding, but I believe there's, you know, opportunity to, you know, maybe cut something here or there if we had to or needed to. But I would like to stick to the previous trend of, you know, continuing to lower it to getting it to where it's completely gone. So that's kind of where I'm leaning at this moment.
Okay. Well, I have talked to the town manager as well about discontinuing Payson's portion of the property tax for our next budget. And we've looked at some ways to streamline things to where that $700,000 can be covered up with other growth and other revenue sources. So I think for now, I think this is as good as we can do. I think Jim's right. $36,000 divided amongst all the properties in Payson is a pretty minor change in property tax. So if there's no more counts, no more discussion, ask for a motion to approve ordinance number 2026-107.
Yeah, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026-107.
And a second?
I second the motion.
Call for the vote. Motion passes 6-1. Okay, unfinished business. These are the ones we moved. G2 is discussion, possible action to direct town staff to prepare refinancing terms with Stifel Public Finance or Holman Capital to refinance the town's PSPRS debt. As council for any discussion?
I guess I would want to entertain the idea of directing the town manager to look at the refinancing terms that Stifel Public Finance could provide for us going forward.
Do we need to take this as two, or do we just pick one?
No, it's just one motion.
One motion
Yeah.
to look at one of
basically-
the options or both of them?
Well, it's however you want to structure it. I mean, I think at this point, town staff just need a direction of what you wanted to bring back. Because as I think during the presentations, it was mentioned, right, you're not approving anything right now, a specific path, but at least to give us direction of which way you want us to go. Or if you want to table it, or if you want to have more options or more discussion going forward.
I would just as soon move forward with getting the numbers to where we can put side by side without the constraints of reading it on the screen, to where we can just have a logical discussion about apples to apples as close as possible. It looks to me like the direct financing is way too expensive to afford any benefit. But I'd still like to see the presentation, so.
You know what, I guess maybe for just clarification, I mean, when you say presentation, so are you wanting like additional
No,
discussion item on?
well, it says you're gonna prepare financing terms. That's the rest of the story, if you will.
So I think the way Stiefel presented it, I think they were looking at if you wanted us, like if you gave approval to work with them, they were gonna actually start working on the actual documents, getting everything prepared so that they can meet that, I think, August 12th date to bring that package back to you. So are you looking more like you want that specific direction where you want us to actually start working on with one or the other, or you're still in a more of a, we just want to still gather more information?
No, I think I'm ready to ask for that, just to see the actual package.
And that's what I kind of meant by my motion is.
So I'm a little confused. Are you wanting both of them or are we gonna choose?
I don't think Holman's has
Okay,
has
just
enough
go with it.
range between
Okay.
what they're offering and what.
Okay, I just want to hear it verbally that you're talking about Staple.
We're talking about Steve.
Okay,
Yeah, I
there you
am.
go.
Yes.
Yeah, my comments were just also kind of clarifying that is, based on the presentations that we saw, even if Home and Capital came back in at a 10-year rate at 7%, I mean, it's still quite a bit off from what Stiefel is presenting. And so I don't think we need to see both of the terms. I think we put together a package.
I
from
agree,
Stiefel.
because
Yeah.
0.2% isn't gonna pay for the time and the effort it takes to do the refinancing.
Correct.
So I say, yeah, get a presentation from Stiefel.
However, if it does come back with the emergency clause section, that will come back to us prior, correct?
Well, I mean, we won't have that, like, because we'll be drafting with the bond folks, the resolution. We're not going to include that unless we get direction otherwise.
I think town manager Codwell clarified all of that last time is because of the last emergency clause that was passed, and we don't have to go down that road again, basically. Was that my understanding?
Don't want to get into a position of us going forward with this and then them throw a towel in and say, oops, sorry, we do have to, because he said it wasn't, but he
See that
said
at
it
all.
seemed like it was.
No, and that would be your decision as council
No,
to make that, emergency clause decisions.
So we're just doing a motion. We're just doing a.
Alan had a comment?
I can comment after the motion, either way.
Go ahead.
I just want to, I don't want to throw a wrench in things, but throw another perspective out that I hope none of us are forgetting here. Christina, I still have a lot of constituents reaching out in reference to 401, 402. Obviously, it's a big issue in the community. Under 401 and 402, we would technically need a vote from the people to be going out for this bond, correct?
No.
Well, so if 401 if was proceeding, then we would, 401 said your revenue excise bonds have to be treated like general obligation bonds, which under state law requires an election. So that's what 401 said. I don't think 402 would apply here, but 401 is, that's what
So it would be in violation of one of those if they were currently in place.
if they were in place, yes.
I understand or not. I just want to make sure, I think we're all we want to make sure we're not missing the mark, anything from the community. We're
I'm
obviously.
getting a little confused here. I don't know.
Would want to say that. It's more that you would have another step.
I'm getting a little confused here. I don't know why we were even talking about 401, because that's something in the past. So is that something? I don't understand why that's being brought up at this particular point in time. I think it's, are we?
Months to bring it back.
No, just to finish the thought, I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence as a council.
Well,
Full disclosure, I think this makes total sense. I think we should move forward with this. But if they were in place and the people that are still very vocal, I'm not finished talking, very vocal about 401 and 402, we are talking about entering into a $20 million debt. I understand we already have debt. We're moving it around, but it would be $20 million of new debt. So I'm just throwing it out there for conversation. If we decide not to worry about it and we can just go and make.
No, not new debt. It's changing debt for debt. It's not a tax increase. It's not an increase in our debt capacity. It's taking one form of debt and giving it
to another,
replacing it with another form of debt.
The reality is we are making a decision to take on a $20 million bond, that there are people in town who think that they should vote on that, whether it's debt for debt or not. We are going out and asking, doing our due diligence as their representatives to take on a $20 million bond, excise tax bond. And in the past, there have been those who said, no, we should never do that. 7 people shouldn't make that decision. The people should. That's, I think, Darren's point.
We're just throwing it for conversation. I think it's something valuable to talk about.
Right. That's something I've heard a lot about, so I think it's something that we need to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I've heard from folks that think there is another solution to
Yeah.
dealing with PSPRS is that has nothing to do with taking on debt. So,
Well, I think we can follow.
Well, we've already taken on the debt. We have the debt at this
there
moment.
are other
We-
options I've heard from people instead of taking on more debt. So
It's not more debt. It's trading debt for debt. The amount of debt
Financing.
is the same.
What is,
you can reduce the reasons for those debts in terms of reducing public safety costs and expenses. I'm not saying I agree with them,
But we've
but they're out there saying it.
We have already incurred the $20 million debt
I don't
for
disagree
19
with
million. It doesn't matter
The
what we
incurring
do going
debt in the
forward.
future can be reduced. And we can maybe get a hold on it by
No.
paying off selling land.
Yeah,
by
okay, well, let's
other
put it to,
things.
let's put it to a vote to the people. Is that what you all are saying? Because I.
I don't think we should, but others have said we should.
There's a manipulation going on here right now. Yeah. Okay, and I see the manipulation and I see what's going on. And I think it's a sad commentary for you to bring up something like this during what's happening out during voting season. And this is a master manipulation to put people in a position which I think is unethical. And that's my own public opinion. So I'll say at this point, let's put it to a vote to the people.
Mayor and council, so just so you're clear, so first of all, you have to have statutory authority to refer something to the ballot.
Okay.
And this does not meet that criteria. So,
No, there's some manipulation going on here, is what's going on, and I don't appreciate it. Okay? And I think it's a sad commentary that this is brought up on this dais today. You can all look at me funny, but you're manipulating the system. And you know what you're doing. You all know exactly what you're doing.
A motion has been made.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I know you know what you're doing.
Completely disagree with you.
Wait,
on what I'm doing.
Time out. We're not going anywhere. Just
I've made a motion. If there's any discussion on the relevancy of the motion, fine, but otherwise, let's call for a
Mr. Mayor,
vote.
if we could please clarify exactly what the motion is. We don't have a second yet, but if we can clarify the motion before council at this moment.
Oh, you want me to clarify the motion?
Steve.
Okay.
If you can, yeah.
I make a motion that we direct the town staff to prepare financing terms with Stifel Public Finance regarding the $20 million bond issue to pay off the PSPRS debt.
I second. I've got no vote thing on
There's
my
no voting
screen.
thing up here.
yeah, we just have.
One moment, click
Hold on.
discuss.
You just had to put the right, since you had a choice between Steeple and Holman.
Oh.
Because this vote doesn't commit us to
Any.
No, it's just
anything.
directing.
This is just directing to get a package.
Correct.
Who seconded? Did you, Steve?
I don't,
Oh.
yeah, I'm reading the screen.
Oh, okay.
I did second it, so. Motion passes 7-0. brings us to H1 and new business. And discussion at the request of council members Charlie Bell and Jim Ferris regarding current legal services for the town, including advantages and disadvantages of in-house services as compared to contract services.
I have basically a 2-minute read here that I'd like to do at this particular point in time. Mayor, council, members of the public, appreciate your time. Tonight, I want to speak about an issue that affects everyday decisions we make, every contract we sign, and every dollar we spend. The structure of our legal services, specifically whether patients should consider hiring an in-house town attorney. This is not about personalities and it's not about politics. It's about strengthening our governance, protecting taxpayers, and ensuring that the town of Payson operates with the transparency and accountability our residents deserve. Right now, we rely almost entirely on outside law firms. They play an important role, especially in litigation and specialized matters. But this model leaves us without a consistent day-to-day legal oversight. And the consequences show up in very issues our community has been concerned about: emergency clauses, procurement questions, contract delays, enterprise fund, commingling, and the rising cost of outside legal review. An in-house attorney would give us something we currently lack: immediate on-site legal guidance, someone who understands our history, our priorities, and our long-term goals. Someone who can review contracts before they become problems, ensure compliance before mistakes are made, and help us navigate state law in real time, not days or weeks later. There's also a fiscal argument. Outside firms bill by the hour. Those costs fluctuate and they rise quickly when the town is dealing with complex projects. An in-house attorney works on a predictable salary. Over time, that stability saves money and reduces our dependence on external billing. But the biggest benefit is accountability. An in-house attorney becomes the town's internal safeguard, ensuring our actions follow the law, our contracts protect the public, and our decisions are grounded in sound legal footing. That is how we prevent problems instead of paying to fix them later. To be clear, this does not eliminate the need for outside counsel. Most well-run municipalities use a hybrid model: in-house for daily governance, outside firms for specialized or high-risk matters. This is the responsible, balanced approach. At the end of the day, this is about giving Payson the tools to govern effectively. It's about protecting taxpayer dollars. It's about building institutional memory. And it's about ensuring that every decision we make is legally sound and in the best interest of the people we serve. I believe it is time for us to seriously evaluate this option, not as a political statement, but as a commitment to good governance. Just in summary, an in-house attorney gives the town of Payson consistent, fast, cost-predictable legal guidance with deep knowledge of local operations. A law firm provides specialized expertise in litigation, strengthened but at a higher and less predictable cost. The strongest model for most municipalities is a hybrid: in-house for daily government and compliance, outside for counsel for complex and high-risk matters. Thank you.
Oh, let me borrow it from there.
Right there, so I can do it.
Well, it's not working.
Oh, it's not?
Mine, I'm-
Okay, that's okay.
I will get it up. And Mayor and Council, just while that's getting set up, I just wanted to kind of clarify also for H1 and H2. I think when this question was coming up about the legal services, there looked like there might have been also questions about maybe past contracts or other work that we've done. And so just to make sure that we could talk about it, you could talk about it. That's why H2 is there. So
To executive.
yeah, but you don't have to do an executive session unless there's something confidential. But I wanted the flexibility so that way we weren't just locked into just an in-house versus a legal. If you wanted to ask other questions, you can.
I'm hopeful, Mr. Mayor, with With the presentation today, I'll be able to answer several of Councilmember Bell's questions as well as it pertains to both the models and cost predictability and those sorts of things. As a starting point, I know that we've been with you guys for, I think, over 7 years now. It's in that range. So I know, in fact, when I came in, I saw several, and I've known many of you for a long time. Others, because Christina's been the face for the last couple of years, I know that, and in fact, Councilmember Bell, I knew you recognized my face, but then he actually said, like Jim said, sorry, Councilmember Ferris, that I was younger. Yeah, I looked younger than the last time you saw me, and so I think I do need to come out here more often because I enjoy that. But I know some of you, Councilmember Hawes is new since I think I've actually been out here. Although when Councilmember Hawes was elected, put two and two together and figured out that his brother actually lives very close to me in my neighborhood. So I've known his brother for several years. So I wanted to just briefly introduce our firm generally to you and share with you just some things of what we do and who we are. Go ahead and, yeah, you can hit a couple of those because I think we've been named as a tier 1 best law firm by U.S. News and World Report for several years in a row now. Multiple lawyers in our firm, which now comes to, I don't say 19 or 20 lawyers in the firm that have been recognized by best lawyers or super lawyers. Our firm is the city or town attorneys contracted like we do for Payson for I say approximately because it could be 26 now, 25 Arizona municipalities. So to address one of the questions and one of the things that Councilmember Bell shared, the majority of municipalities in Arizona do not have a hybrid model. In fact, the significant majority, it's just the larger ones that have an in-house department. And I'll explain some of the economics to that. I have some slides to share some of that because we actually do that hybrid model with several municipalities that have an in-house department, and we get hired by them as well to come in on special projects or other things. And so I can explain a few of those. And again, so go ahead and go to the next slide. Thanks. I wanted to give you a small sampling of the lawyers in our firm. So we've got 4 former in-house city and town attorneys that have actually done it on an in-house basis. We have 3 that have been in-house deputy county attorneys. So when you put those together, we've got several folks with a lot of in-house experience, both at cities, towns, and counties. Former in-house prosecutors, both from lower level misdemeanor stuff to felony prosecutions. 3 lawyers that do that. 2 military veterans. 2 former state chief elections officers and clean elections commissioners, one of which is Christina here. The other is Amy Chan. We actually a year or so ago hired an attorney who spent the first 10 years of his career as a certified law enforcement officer, and then he decided to go to law school, become an attorney, and he's been practicing law now for about 10 years as well, and he's now with us. Former general counsel to the League of Arizona Cities and Towns, that's also Christina, so she's up there twice. Former general counsel to the Secretary of State's office, that's Amy. And then current and past presidents of the Arizona City Attorney Association. Once again, Christina is one of those 3. Christina is the current president, in fact, of the Arizona City Attorney Association. Now, though that association is all the city attorneys in the state, to include all of the in-house city attorneys, whether it's the city attorney for the city of Phoenix, city attorney for the city of Mesa, big cities, and Christina is the president right now. Our firm has over 200 years. I think I need to update this number when I start putting them all together. We may be closer to 300 years of combined experience in municipal law in Arizona. We're by far the most experienced municipal law firm in the state. I mean, it's not close. Because of that, because of the various areas that we can all that we all have different expertise in, whether it's employment law, land use law, elections law, other sorts of areas that come to municipalities. We're experienced in all those areas. Because of that, we collaborate. And if we have an issue of land use, I know land use enough but I know I have lawyers in my firm that could probably answer that question in 5 minutes instead of save me, an hour of time researching the issue. And so we use that, we collaborate in order to provide that most efficient work for our clients. Go ahead and go to the next slide if you would. And again, 25 Arizona municipalities and the Municipal Risk Pool, where we are the contracted counsel for all of their employment law work and for all of the members of the Municipal Risk Pool. That's 76 of the cities and towns. Again, we've been for about 7 years now, your contracted town attorneys. Christina has been the primary point of contact over the last couple of years. Let's talk a little bit about some of the financing or some of the economics of this. Since 2026, by the way, 2022 was terrible. I think it was like 6 point something of inflation. And then in 2023, 3.4% inflation, 2024, 2.9% inflation, 2025, 2.7% inflation. We're looking at about 10% inflation in that time period. And yet our flat fee, it's not by the hour. We do not charge you by the hour, has not increased in that time, 0%. Now, let me show you the time, because we do keep track in order to find, to make sure we're where our time is going. And so I want to, and I'll share with you the prosecution numbers first, because we do your city municipal prosecution work, and then we do your general services work. So your municipal prosecution work from July 1 of 2024 to today. So nearly 2 years. We're just a few days away from 2 years. The prosecutor time that we have recorded in our system is 2,370 hours and a half. At a discounted hourly rate. Again, we don't bill you by the hour, but if we did at a discounted hourly rate, $250 an hour, which is pretty low, by the way. If you look at the market for attorneys and what they charge. I don't know if any of you do any private sector work and you have attorneys you have to pay. I guarantee it's a heck of a lot more than that. That would come to the equivalent of $592,500. $592,500. You were billed during that time $260,000. The difference is $332,000 over the last 2 years, that if we were billing you by the hour, that's what you would have paid. You didn't pay that. For general municipal services from July 1, 2024 to the present, senior attorney time. So senior attorney would be like, Christina, me, 1,856 hours. Associate time, more junior level attorney, 202 hours. Paralegal, 120 hours. Again, at our discounted rates for general municipal services, which is $295, $250, again, for that prosecutor level, mid-level 125, would be $628,000. By the way, I think this is a low estimate. I say estimate. I ran these numbers. I didn't have time to go back into the system and re-enter people who have left the firm. For example, we had a couple of our lawyers who recently took in-house jobs that had done some work for the city, for the town of Payson. I didn't include their work in here. So it's almost certainly significantly more than that, but we'll just go with the 628, 145. During that time period, you were billed 594. Again, that's that's 2 years. That number though also includes an indirect cost. 550, not 594. 550 is the actual attorney fee that we're charging for that. There's an 8% indirect cost because of things like this that I'll explain to you what will happen in an in-house department. So to hire a town attorney today, I just did for a valley municipality, smaller. They're around 100,000 population. I mean, they're not Phoenix, they're not Mesa, but they're one of the metro city area municipalities. I just came in and helped their council negotiate their contract with their in-house city attorney. Their in-house city attorney is going to be paid over $300,000 a year, just salary. Now, in the rural areas, you'd be hard pressed to find an in-house town attorney, competent in-house town attorney, for less than $200,000 a year. I would, if you could do it, I'd say, good, show me where you can find that person. Because I don't think they exist. If you look at what the EREs, the employee related expenses for this type of position, it is 40% or more for high level executives. And let me explain why. ASRS, 12% right out of the gate. You're gonna be paying 12% to the state for that ASRS. You got FICA at 7.65%. Health benefits and other types of benefits typically range in the 10 to 12%, could be more. I don't know what I thought that was a conservative estimate given I know that mine is more than that for my firm. What I'm paying for health insurance to cover my family right now is just insane. I don't know how people even afford it, but 10 to 12%. And then you've got PTO. You've got time off that accrues. Most executive level employees, when they go on vacation, they're actually not because they're getting calls, they're still doing stuff. So they're accruing vacation. And you probably remember this even just from a couple of years ago, the last time an executive left that I'm aware of that we had worked through, there was a big PTO balance that had to be paid out as a part of that. So when you're looking at the cost of an in-house person, you can't ignore the fact that those accruals at some point in time might have to get paid out. And not to mention potentially, if you contract, you're going to have a contract with somebody. Most city town attorneys, again, the contract that I did for that Valley municipality has a severance clause in it. They always do because they have to have some sort of protection when they're working in-house so that they're not, so that they have some sort of job protection. Something that we obviously don't do as contractors. When you put in all of that, again, 40 some odd percent, your total cost just for compensation and benefits for an in-house town attorney is going to be $280,000 plus. That's just for compensation and benefits. Now you got to take into account overhead for the office. You're going to have Westlaw. We don't have libraries anymore of floors of libraries with case books and other things like that. It's all via Westlaw or Lexis. An in-house municipal per user, Westlaw charges over $2,000 a month for per user. And I can tell you that we get a discounted rate because of obviously the number of lawyers that we have. We still pay way more than that. So when you take into account the overhead costs, a legal assistant, paralegal, they're going to need somebody, the space. When you take all of that into account, you are going to be well over $300,000 to $400,000 just for one person with one level of expertise. And Councilmember Bell is right. That person is still going to need a budget for outside legal services when it goes outside of their own expertise. To give you an idea back, I'm not going to skip the town prosecutor piece of it. Town prosecutors you could hire for a little bit less than town attorneys, probably about $130,000 again, plus all the other EREs. But that is also why when we started here in 2000, I want to say 19, I think it was 2019, there was an in-house prosecutor and there had been an in-house town attorney, which at the time there was concern that and I see both sides of it, what Councilmember Bell is talking about. I can see value in having somebody here. There's also the flip side of it, which is that person sometimes maybe can't be quite as objective as somebody. I've gotten a dog in the fight, sometimes what I've heard from city attorneys is that they worry that their jobs always hinge on the vote of 4 people, and that sometimes that can cause them to look at the law in a way that maybe is self-preserving instead of how it actually is. So in 2018, as the town of Payson's legal budget was over $500,000 a year. That's what the budget was. Now, again, if we go back to 2019 and we put inflation forward, if you had an in-house legal department here, there's no realistic way that you'd be able to do this for under $600,000, $700,000. And your budget with us, everything you pay us is under $500,000. Still, budget was 500 then. You pay less than that to us on a yearly basis. And so what our proposal for you is, well, it's just to continue going forward and to still not increase our flat fee budget or our flat fee that we charge to you guys for the general legal services. 0% increase again. The only increase that we need, and it's because we're frankly losing our tail on the prosecution side of things, is to put that prosecution budget at 180 a year, which again is still well below when you saw the numbers of how much time is being spent. And that also is a result, you might remember prior to us taking over the prosecution activities, there was another prosecutor that was doing the work. When we came on board, I think that, again, I'm very proud of our firm and our people. And we came on board and saw that there was a lot of things that needed to be done differently and a lot more time needed to be spent. Now, you could look at it and say, hey, well, we're on a flat fee. Maybe we should have just, sloughed it. We didn't. We don't do that. We do the work that needs to be done, even if it means that we're not making the money that we could make if we weren't spending the time. We put the time in that we need to get it done right. But because of that, we really do need to be at least at this level where we can justify our existence. And again, it still is significantly less than what you would pay for an in-house prosecutor and department, and you're getting the experience of an entire firm. So you don't actually have to have the hire that outside firm for any of those extra services because we've got all of that in-house. I am happy to answer any questions, address any concerns, and I hope I pointed at Councilmember Bob. You had some questions. I hope that was, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to answer the questions that you had and concerns.
I read that and I put this on the agenda because I think it's important that we have a review and we look at options for discussion purposes to expand our mind, our thinking, and see what's really available and what's out there and what the costs really are. So no, I appreciate your time. I did this because I heard a lot from community members, in-house attorney versus law firms, et cetera, et cetera. People said they've been talking about this for years. How come we don't have our in-house attorney? It's a better relationship and all of this kind of stuff. So I did it for discussion purposes, for not that I swing one way or swing the other way. It's just, I think it's important that we just have a review, that you come up here and talk to us.
I am glad to. I know, no, and I viewed it that way as well. It actually was a great opportunity to be able to reconnect and talk about the services we're doing. I love bragging about our firm. You give me an opportunity to brag about our firm, I'm going to do it, especially Christina. Yeah, I'm going to tell you that you have, and I would say this if she wasn't here, I'm not just like, but like several of our municipalities, sometimes they'll reach out to me like, hey, do you think we could get Christina out here on occasion? We love having her out here. The clerks love her. And I tell her, I'm like, she's pretty tied up. She works a lot with Payson right now. And so you guys are kind of a preferred client. And obviously in 7 years and we've just come to love working with you guys. And of course, if there are ever any questions, concerns, issues, we're happy to talk about them and be as transparent again as possible to be able to talk through whatever issues you have and concerns you have.
I
got a sheet?
I got a sheet. I didn't coordinate this with Charlie, so if anything will overlap, excuse me. And yeah, I did say you look younger, but maybe some just for man might help.
All natural, man.
Okay. But, and then maybe we need to put together a request for a proposal. So some of your attorneys down there, they may want to come out and be our.
Hey, look, we are trying to, and I mean, in all seriousness, before you get to that, did Matt come out here once? Has Matt?
Matt's been out once, yes.
Yeah. He's terrific too. And we're trying to make sure that you have exposure and access to several of our attorneys to,
I guess some of the comments I have is that, I feel an in-house attorney is vested in our community. And I mean, they're the person you see at the grocery store, town events, and, they have a vested interest in the town. I think they're built-in disincentives for a contract firm to do or pursue the extra research investigations that we may want or need at different times. And, to me, why would a firm dig into issues or file court papers when the firm can use that time to bill other clients, several $100s per hour, rather than spend that time that, getting some legal information, the determinations that we may need. If we terminate the firm's contract, it probably doesn't represent a huge dent in your annual income. But if we terminate the full-time town attorney, we affect 100% of their income. And then my question would be, well, who's going to be more motivated to serve the best interests of Payson? A town attorney would be more available and accessible to the town government and town council members. I believe too that, we would still be a member of the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool, and we would have that kind of legal advice or soundboard through them. Right now, you're 20 attorneys. We still pay a lot of money to Fenimore Craig for our water, legal fees. Which brings me to, there's a lot of legal fees other than what we're paying you on a month-to-month, year-to-year basis that, is going out there. Would we be paying that same amount if we had an in-house attorney that, had some other resources? And it seems like whenever we've had legal issues come up, seems like they're automatically thrown in the risk retention pool or another attorney outside of your firm. So I really haven't experienced where the expertise within the firm have been a great advantage to us financially. I just think it would be nice. And yeah, we may have to have, create obviously a workspace, an office, a paralegal, and have some of the expenses for them. But I just feel that if it could be someone that I could go any day of the week, I could go to their office and visit with them. And we could talk about some things. I know in the past issues that have come up that you just go, wow, it'd really be nice to have an attorney be able to investigate or look into things. What are our options? What's the ramification if we do this or do that? I just think that we got that very accessible feedback on some legal matters. And the self-preserving can go both ways too. And I just don't understand why most of the legal cases that have come up, they went to an outside attorney, outside of your firm. I just thought the advantage, of having a firm would be there. I haven't necessarily seen it. And there's been a number of things, and I'm not going to get into it, that what I believe were some cases and seeing something that I feel the representation of the town has not necessarily been stellar. And I talked to people with other town governments and what I hear, it isn't, I don't see an exemplary, resume for, the services that your firm has necessarily provided other communities. So my feeling is I don't see a huge disadvantage if financially or maybe just raw legal representation of having an in-house attorney.
quick things on the issue of Fenimore Craig. So Fenimore Craig was here long before we were even here. So you had an in-house town attorney and Fenimore Craig was doing all the water stuff. So, so that certainly has not been something that has been affected by our representation.
But I guess what I'm saying, we taken on your firm, we haven't said, okay, we can use this firm for this year. We don't need to be paying Fenimore Craig for future legal services, but.
Yeah, look, if we ever have somebody that's a water law expert, we would love to take that over as well. We wouldn't be able to do it under this flat fee because of the amount of work that is done in that space as well. But we'd be happy to look at that. So, but in terms of the accessibility issue, I've always said, and again, with any of the cities and towns that we represent, I would disagree that I think that if we weren't providing stellar legal services to cities and towns, we wouldn't be very successful. But we obviously are able to service a lot of cities and towns. But I think we are very accessible. And if there was ever a time that anybody felt like they weren't able to reach us or needed to, I'd be happy to talk about that. But I know that I'm just from looking at the time Christina spends, I think that she's in regular contact with the town representatives that need issues and have issues. And so, but I appreciate your perspective on that. Obviously, Mr. Ferris and I have known each other for a very long time.
I think we've probably had a few battle scars.
A few, and that's okay. You know what? If we were always agreeing on everything all the time, you know, I might wonder.
You know, one of the are we talking about the potential contract for the prosecuting services and too? Is that
is on the agenda. We can talk about it.
Because I was wondering and in the contract, in the future contract, it says about the shadow accounting going on about and you know, but we don't get that. I remember a few years ago, I asked for that and I wasn't able to get it. And I'm just going, I don't know why. Why do we have that? Why are we looking at this? You're asking for what, a 34 point some % increase in the process, but I would think that you know, that those shadow invoices would be part of that, where we could actually see that.
Well, and that was a prior town manager decision as to, you know, whether to make something like that a public record. I never had a problem with it at all. In fact, I would love to share with you. And as I shared you the numbers, but I can, with a few clicks of a button, create a PDF that shows all of that. But those are the numbers in terms of the time spent. And so you can do the calculations, but I'm certainly happy to run whatever report that shows those numbers and those times. Because if you look at it, once again, we're probably looking at 12 to 15 different people. I gave you the senior attorney number spent, but that's Matt, me, Christina, Amy, it was Robert. I mean, there's a whole host of people, and I'm able to show that. I'm happy to share that with you. That again, prior town manager felt like, look, I don't need, based on the flat fee, I don't need this, you know, but to me, what it's going to show you is that you're getting a screaming deal. So I would
prior town manager, but I mean, if you're looking at that kind of increase, I think those kind of numbers and that kind of documentation would go a long ways. So,
and I can also tell you that, like, I can show you those numbers and that's great. I can also tell you, we can't continue doing the prosecution work under the current numbers. Like I have to pay that prosecutor in our firm. And right now, the amount of time that he's dedicating to the prosecution services here, like I'm going in the hole.
Yeah.
So like,
you know, I guess to me, you know, and two, looking at the last 3-5 years of experience and what's gone, maybe I think would be a benefit to us. There's a couple things with the contract that I had a problem with. And the one was, if there was a disagreement, we're gonna go to the state bar's fee arbitration coordinator. I'm going,
That's just.
what chance would we have on this side of the desk? If that, isn't there so many other contracts that we have other, some kind of government arbitrators that would,
That's just a standard term as fairness. That's not, by the way, I've in nearly 20-something years of this, I've never seen it happen. It's just one of those things that we have to put in contracts with our clients on these sorts of things. If there's a fee dispute, this is where it goes.
the other thing is having this contract being terminated under ARS 38-511.
Right.
That doesn't give us much. Why not have a 30, 60-day notice to terminate the relationship between us?
Mr. Ferris, that provision is just a requirement in state law that the cancellation under 38-511.
Yeah.
That's for conflict of interest. And that's yours. That's you. That's if you were to.
But the termination in the contract says that if we were going to terminate it, the 38-511 would dictate, the grounds that we would have to terminate it. And it isn't just conflicts of interest. I mean, I would like to think that we would have the ability to terminate a contract at a 30, 60-day notice at any point.
Yeah, you do. 38-511 doesn't apply to that is in state law. It's required with every contract that provision be in there, that every contract is cancelable if at the pleasure of the entity for conflict of interest.
I read it. I understand that, but then we have no other means of terminating the contract.
So there is another termination provision on page 1.
You
That
terminate
is
it
like a 60-day notice.
The town can terminate at any time.
anytime.
Have to work within our ethical obligations. We obviously can't leave you. hanging.
Okay, that's stated in the contract.
Something
Okay,
fine.
all right, that's, I would appreciate that, the ability to be able to do that, so.
It's right there.
Anyone else, Scott?
Yeah.
Jump in,
Jump in.
jump in.
I didn't have the opportunity or privilege to read the comments that they prepared. So I tried to jot quite a few things down. Much of what they asserted, I fundamentally disagree with, but I'd like to go point by point if we need to, and you can make copies for us. But there were some assumptions made. I jotted down disincentivized, questioning motivation, wouldn't be able to be as accountable or protect the town or provide sound legal advice as well as an in-house attorney. I don't know where you get that assumption and assertion. Just because we contract versus in-house doesn't disincentivize, doesn't necessarily mean somebody is not going to provide stellar and exemplary service simply because they contract. That's an assumption. I don't know where you came from. As far as the accountability issue or accessibility issue, I don't need to go to their office and sit down with them to get almost instant reply, counsel, answers to questions. I've done it many times in my last 6 years where I have sent an email, phone call, get almost instant response. So again, that assumption that they have to be here to have accessibility just doesn't compute. So, and certainly with our contract with Pierce Coleman, in the presentation, I have found to be consistent with everything I've seen in the 6 years. So I couldn't disagree with you two more that an in-house attorney would be better for Payson in many ways. So that's my input.
I guess I was misunderstood here. This is a discussion. I think that needs to happen. I'm not for
I
yay
just
or nay,
discussed.
so I'm looking for feedback for the rest of the council members. I'm not saying I lean left. I'm not saying I lean right. I just think that we need to have this discussion on and off and get the opinion of the council members to see what's really viable. And I mean, we're in the 21st century right now. AI is dominating whatever's going on out there. And the research is astronomical and it's in seconds, and so I put this out there for discussion, Scott.
I was responding to your opinionated assertions about in-house versus, and so I was just responding to what you
It's just a
said.
discussion.
Opinionated assertions go both ways.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
the,
stop,
in
stop,
my
time.
opinion,
Time out.
Okay.
Next. Thank you. Next.
Got my button pushed for discussion. So I appreciate you bringing this up for discussion. It's been obviously something a lot of people have talked about. I think, Jim, in your first term, I think if I understand correctly, we had an in-house attorney that was terminated. Now, and that's when we switched over to you, to your firm.
No, it wasn't terminated. He
He was in-
resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went out of having an in-house attorney to outside legal. But I'm glad to hear that we are a preferred client. I just assumed you sent your best attorney because we were the problem child. But if we are a preferred client,
They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, Mr. Haas.
if we are the preferred client, I think there should be some sort of discount in play. The preferred client.
You saw the numbers. There are, Mr. Haas.
No, and to your point, I've dove into it. I've spoken with family members, friends, people I've worked with along the way as far as typical hourly rates. From what I've seen, your hourly rates are extremely under the average. We just paid $675 an hour for a zoning attorney, and it racks up very quickly. So I think those are definitely fair. As far as Christina goes, she's been the only attorney that I've really worked with here. Obviously, there's been a couple others that have come in, but
Been the best since I've been.
I would make that statement.
Here,
I work with her.
literally
more.
right here.
She's best.
You got to be here to be the best.
Yeah.
So I echo Scott's point. I have never had any situation where I could not get a hold of Christina. I've called you a couple times for different matters, answered, called me back quickly. So in the event that there was not a immediate pickup, even on, I think, Friday afternoons, there's always a text. Hey, I can text you. I can call you back this time, set up an appointment, quick email. So if there were problems or we were having lawsuits and we were losing those, or we didn't feel like we were getting the proper service, I would totally be in favor of exploring other options. But I think up to this point, it's been nothing but great service. I think I also share the opinion that, yes, I like having town employees that are invested in the community, but I would say that this is one of the areas where I would disagree there, that we do want a outside perspective, somebody that still has our best interests in mind, but to your point, is not worried about four people's votes, ending their career, ending their employment if they don't give the advice that they're looking for. So obviously, even if we canceled our contract with you, Christina would still have a job, so she's going to give us the sound legal advice regardless of that. So I appreciate the discussion, but I just think, I don't think we're overpaying. If there was significant savings, absolutely, let's save money, even if it comes at a slight disservice, if it's something we can stomach, but I just don't think the savings are there and the service would be far less adequate.
And I think we will continue to save you money so that you can move toward that elimination of that property tax you were just talking about. So.
Thank you. Again, appreciate the presentation, and just as we're discussing here, my experience has been very positive with Pierce Coleman. As we experienced a change in councils, and felt like there would be some conflict and, you know, quickly you guys provided us with a fabulous attorney. And so I think that ability to adapt to the councils as we change and things like that, hopefully it's, you know, it's Christina for the next, you know, decade. But like I said, it is nice to have that flexibility, and I have seen nothing but positives. I'll echo what has been said. I can email Christina, and within a short period of time, I don't think it's ever exceeded 24 hours that, you know, I've gotten a response and been offered a phone call or whatever if I need clarification. And even with our, you know, previous representative, you know, I got the same type of service, and I haven't seen that falter from one attorney to another. And I have a strong feeling out of all of the, you know, services that our town needs. I think this being outsourced and contracted to just preserve that objective view. You know, I want legal advice. It's not going to, you know, come from my buddy that might, you know, alter it a little this way or that, and it'll be like, oh, Brett, you'll be all right. You know, I want straight, you know, keep me out of trouble, legal advice. And I think, you know, without the pressures of what we see sometime in our town being a little bit, you know, sometimes polarized this way and that way, you know, the people lean on you a little bit more, and there could be pressures there. And so I think, you know, a very neutral, objective legal counsel is critical to, you know, keeping the town of Payson out of trouble.
Mr. Fleur, if I could also just one point I forgot I was going to respond to earlier about the issue of tendering a matter to the insurance pool, for example. The reality is, if we don't do that, if you don't tender a claim at timely, you lose the right to your coverage on it. And so it's been deemed to be malpractice for lawyers to take on a case and defend a client if that client has an insurance coverage on that very thing, where the insurer decides where that claim is going to go. So we certainly could have taken on all of that. One, what it would have done is it would have increased the number of hours we're spending, which means we'd probably be coming here requesting even more to say, hey, you know, we got to pay for all of this. But two, it would have jeopardized your potential coverage on those claims. And we just didn't feel that was appropriate to do.
For me, when I needed you available, you were there. I met you in your office, and I believe things turned out very satisfactorily. I also have another question. How many lawsuits have been initiated against Payson in the last 12 months?
I don't think any.
Bingo!
Any. Yeah.
That's the goal. That's the purpose of our legal representation, is to keep us out of court. And if we've had 0 lawsuits initiated, it means we've been getting sound advice and we've been keeping our noses clean. And that's your goal, or that's my goal for you, is I don't know how to stay out of trouble. The legal team is the conscience for us as the council. And so with us not having any new lawsuits in the last 12 months, that's exciting, and that's a proud moment for me. So I'm pleased with the way things are going.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate that. Now, we can't always control. Sometimes people just file stuff, you know.
I know.
But I think your point is well taken, though, that when there are things you can do to mitigate those chances of those happening. And I think we try our best to do that.
So any other discussion on this? Because
I do want to bring up something else.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Quickly.
I'll take my time. The one thing about an in-house attorney, they're full-time working for Payson. And like I said, if you have something that you want to have researched, get some feedback on, get some idea on some options, I think they're gonna be much more willing. I mean, they have to. They're working for the town of Payson. They would do that. And I think it'd give us a lot better perspective of what options are in the future. The one thing with the risk retention pool that, what I understand, it's approximately of the first 25,000, they pay 25%. Approximately.
It depends on the claim, yeah. You have a coverage
I know
agreement.
it
that- yeah.
depends, but just generally, and then you're looking at 50% from 25,000 to 50,000. And then what after that? 25% or zero? We've exhausted our insurance pool. So it's, sometimes I wonder, how much we're paying specifically for that, legal insurance when the opportunity to actually collect on it is quite small. Especially if you have large cases that go into $100,000-$200,000. What are we paying out of pocket?
Once again, it really depends on your claim. I mean, I do employment claims and we haven't had one here again, fortunately, but
Mhm.
if we did have one, your out of pocket is your deductible and that's it. $5,000 maybe, something like that. And it's covered the rest. So it really, it turns on the claim itself.
Okay, the other thing with the termination clause is saying the town may determinate this representation at any time subject to Pierce Coleman's obligation under the rules of professional conduct. What does that mean?
Those are professional rules that all attorneys, when you're licensed, that you have to agree to abide by. Those are, but again, like I said.
So as we resolve our relationship, what it's saying, you're gonna provide.
It
the-
would
the
mean
type
that
of service to make that transition.
if you ended our service and we were in the middle of a lawsuit, for example, going to
Yeah.
trial 30 days from now, we couldn't go, okay, see you later,
I-
because a court
yeah.
would say,
right.
no, you guys are still on the hook.
All right. I
That's
just
all that
wanted
is.
some clarification.
That's all
on
that is.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a closing comment. The community has asked us, how come we're not having discussions up here or talking about things, et cetera, et cetera? That's why I introduced this, because I think we need to have discussions on and off and see varying opinions. For me, I need to be intellectually stimulated. If stuff's not talked about and we're just working off of feelings, none of that really makes any sense to me. So I appreciate your time for coming up here. I'm glad that we could, as a council, we could finally have some type of discussion. And I would like to see more discussions going on so we can begin to understand what's really needed for the town of Payson. So thank you. You did exactly what I wanted to happen, and I appreciate your time.
And I'm glad we were able to do it. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
We'll
Justin.
vote now.
Well, there's nothing to vote on this.
H3 is the
Well, yeah,
prosecution.
but
method.
H3. As I read H2, I see no reason to,
Oh, yeah, no,
so we can just
the H3.
sweep H2.
It's up to, yeah, unless you want to for some reason.
No, I don't. No, please, no. H3, council decision request filed by town attorney Christina Estes Werther regarding approval of the First Amendment to Prosecution Services Agreement, increasing total flat fee to $180,000 a year beginning July 1, 2026.
Yeah, so mayor and council, so Justin kind of covered some of this in his presentation, but the request is to amend the amount for the prosecution services to 180. In your staff report or CDR, I'd asked the town prosecutor to basically provide me all the duties, everything you do for town of Payson. So that's why it's very lengthy, as you can see, and it's really driven a lot by caseload. And so there's quite a lot that they do there, sort of before the hearings, during obviously, and then after. And this is all about misdemeanors. Although they do interface with the county if they need to refer for felony. We also have a legal assistant who supports the prosecutor for Payson. And so In the summary, we have, kind of like the reasoning. Again, Justin kind of went over it about sort of why that increase is really required in order for us to maintain that prosecutor for the town. And I don't know, Justin, you had any other comments?
I think I talked so dang much there.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. That's why she's our favorite. No kidding.
Not kidding. She is my favorite,
Yeah.
yes.
Hey, you know what? That's fine. She's a lot of people's favorites.
We're her favorite too.
That's right.
I think we just need to end this and let's put this to a vote, so.
Need a motion.
Make a motion.
It's
There's
done.
there's a first and a second already.
I hit it already. This may shock some people, but I make a motion.
It's already done.
It's, everything's
Yeah.
there.
I think you have to say it verbally.
You gotta speak it. You gotta.
I gotta speak it though.
Oh.
Let me
Oh.
speak. I make a motion for council decision request by town attorney Christine Estes Werther regarding the approval of First Amendment to prosecution service agreement, increasing total flat fee to $180,000 for the year beginning July 1st, 2026.
And Susie, you need to speak your
Second.
second.
I second.
And I get to call for a vote. Voted no. Hey, that was a good presentation. We got rewarded, so. Motion passes 7-0.